Welcome to 27th National Beekeepers Conference and Techno Fora. With a motto, Aligning Apiculture to Agri-Eco Awareness. August 17th to 19th, 2023 at the Ritz Garden Oases, Davao City.
This presentation is on behalf of Dr. Riva from Bureau of Animal Industry na hindi po makakarating dahil po may audit po sila sa OIE. So yung pong ating quarantine service at saka Bee Health at saka yung National Animal Health Division ay gagawin na po natin international ang scope with the accreditation of our laboratories and institutions into the OIE. Yung po yung world body na nag-certify for zoonotics. Okay? So, yung po yung dahilan kung ba't dinakatin si Dr. Riva. But, first of all, I'd like to make a public apology, yes, regarding the identification of the bee species that was hanging there in front of the conference hall due to, well, let's just say it's our common weakness. We're all excited, and then I asked around to confirm, and it was also part of my mistake as a researcher that I did not look into it more closely. But this morning, I made a trip back to the colony. I took photos of the bees using macro photography, and I also examined the crown of the comb and found out that the bees is indeed Apis florea. Okay? It's indeed Apis florea because the crown does not exhibit the distinct features of Andreniformis, which is the rows, the diagonal rows on top of the crown, and then there is the distinct red band on the first abdominal segment, which was not seen on the photographs that was shown to me yesterday. The bees are so small, so I cannot make out the red band using the naked eye. So I decided this morning to take the macro photography, and it was really indeed florea. So sorry for that. But the thing is, you still have to be proud because the last report of florea was in 1912 or 1937. And there was no confirmation of that report. So this is actually the confirmation of that report from 1912 and 1937. So you still be proud. Yes, there is indeed florea in the Philippines, which makes us an official member of the Florea Circle in Southeast Asia, because they are, because for a lot of, for many years now, a lot of people are saying there's no florea and there's no Andreniformis in the Philippines, and only the florea is occurring in South Asia, mainland Southeast Asia, and South Asia, as well as in Malaysia and Borneo. But no Andreniformis and no florea in the Philippines. Andreniformis was confirmed way back in 1990s by Dr. Dibusban and Dr. Sarbancia in Palawan, and this time it was confirmed, the florea was confirmed here in the Mindanao. Okay, and then also we got samples from Davao, and we confirmed that it is indeed Andreniformis, the one from Davao. So it's still Mindanao, so you still have to be proud. So both species are here in Mindanao, and the other one Palawan. So kailangan po maging proud tayo na talagang meron tayong dalawang species na yun dito sa Pilipinas. Okay? 6 out of 11. species here in the Philippines.
Yeah.
So far,
It's more
baka po marami pa tayong makita dito na hindi nakikita. Okay, so far of the 11 recognized species worldwide, we have 6.
Ano pa yung lima?
So we have Deformis, Florea, Serrana,
Dorsata.
Mellifera,
Dorsata.
and ito pa po ang hinahanap namin, which is also here in Mindanao. Dorsata pa pala, Dorsata. Prebeligula. Okay. Tapos, ang hinahanap po namin dito sa Mindanao, which was reported in 1911, is Apis nigrosinta. Yung negro, kasi nga po, is nigrosinta is black. It's a black hive-dwelling bee. So, kung may makakakita sa inyo ng super eating na military, na honeybee na parang liguan, take photos and samples, maybe it's nigrosinta. Dito rin po yung sa Mindanao na report, but wala pa po confirmation since 1911. Hanapin nyo na. Baka ako maging 7 out of 11 tayo. Okay po, so sabi ko po is bee health and environment. So, dito po kasi tatakil natin bakit mahalaga ang bubuyog sa ating environment, sa kalikasan. Next slide, please. So, medyo maliit po yung aking figure. But dito po pinapakita yung kahalagahan ng bubuyog sa ating environment at yung kahalagahan ng environment sa ating bubuyog. Ano po yan? Hindi sila nagkakahiwalay. So, lahat po na nangyayari sa environment ay nakaka-apekto sa buhay ng ating mga bubuyog at lahat naman ng ginagawa ng ating bubuyog, ng ating mga honeybees ay nakaka-apekto sa environment. Nabanggit ko ito ng papiyaw kahapon, pero ulitin po natin ngayon. Sa environment po kasi, ang environment is dependent po sa mga pollinators na gaya ng honeybees. So, majority po ng plants natin, at least a third po ng mga plants na pinapakinabangan at importante sa atin ay pollinated ng honeybees at saka ng different solitary bees. Ngayon, of the, ilan pa? 20,000 na ba? 20,000 species ng bees na nandito sa planeta, ang honeybees is just 11 species lang yung social. Okay? Pero malaki pong epekto nila kasi nga po, sila ay nagpapadami ng diversity natin. So kasi nga po, with their pollination services na binibigay, they are promoting yung development ng mga halaman at saka yung dispersal ng mga halaman. Kasi po, pag bisita sila, tulad na nalalaman natin, nagkakaroon ng pollination, nagkakaroon ng fruit development, and yung seeds. The seeds is source of food para sa ating mga iba't ibang hayop, which is like yung birds, bats, mammals, land animals, at saka yung mga insects. Now, these animals, including human, aids in the dispersal of the seeds. The seeds would then germinate and grow into full-blown plants na siya namang nagpapaganda sa environment natin at nagpapalawig ng mga services na binibigay ng environment gaya ng pag-filter ng air natin, pagbibigay ng oxygen, aesthetic value niya. Tapos, nagbibigay din ulit sila ng protection from mga elements like yung severe weather, na they're also capturing yung mga floods, na barrier sa floods. Tapos, at the same time, itong mga environment na to, kapag napakialaman na ng humans, nagiging adverse naman po ang effects of pollinators. So halimbawa po, ang dito napansin niyo, nakalagay is pesticides. That's man-made. Okay, so may mga environmental factors po na directly or indirectly nakaka-affect sa bees. Ngayon po, ano po yun, paano nangyayari yun? Okay, pag pesticides, pag ginamit nyo is contact pesticides, naturally, patay yung bees. Ngayon, pag ginamit nyo naman po is systemic insecticide na matagal po retention sa halaman, na usually po it's 3 days to 1 week sa loob ng halaman. Sometimes po yung pesticides na yun will end up sa nectar at sa pollen. Ngayon po, pag yung nectar at pollen na nakuha ng bubuyog ay kinain nila, nakaka-effect po yun sa physiology nila. So ano pong effect sa physiology ng mga bubuyog? Yung pong una, naapektuhan po yung kanilang nervous system, especially po yung mga neonicotinoids. So, nagkakaroon po ng malfunction yung kanilang nervous system. Unang-una naapektuhan is yung navigation parameters ng brain nila. So, nangyayari po, naliligaw yung bees. O kaya nagpapaikot-ikot lang, disoriented, hanggang mag-kick in yung secondary effect ng neonicotinoids na maapektuhan na po yung motor functions. So, babagsak sila, hindi na sila makakalipat, and mamamatay na sila sa kusa silang bumagsak. Yung po, neonicotinoids, ang isa sa mga sinasabing direct impact ng environment because at naging isang primary contributor sa colony collapse disorder. Kasi nga po, naapektuhan yung bees, kumuha sila ng pollen, kumuha sila ng nectar na laced with neonicotinoids na pick up ng plants. Kasi hindi po, ang neonicotinoids po, pagka in-apply nyo sa field, nadadala po yan, hindi po yan nag-disappear. Nadadala po yan ng runoff. So kahit hindi po yung target na halaman, sa paligid ng farm ninyo, nakaka-absorb nun. And they end up in the pollen and in the nectar of those plants. So, pati hindi target organism natatangay, nadadala. And those, secondary, na, halimbawa, hindi naman yung pinapollen ng honeybees nyo, but they have flowers, pinuntahan din ang bubuyog nyo, will affect your colony. And that's the reason bakit sa US po naging predominant yung colony collapse disorder because of that particular pesticide na yun nga po, hindi lang yung target crops yung na-apektuhan but yung mga perimeter na mga halaman na-absorb din siya. And they end up killing the bees. Plus, yung pong mga residues nun na anod pa sa tubig, humahalo sa mga ilog. And then, siyempre, ang mga bees natin kumukuha din po ng tubig, di po ba? So, iinom siya, laced din po yun. So, nangyari, patay din siya. So, yun po ang nangyari ngayon. So, dahil po, namamatay yung bees, dahil sa impact na environment, at yung atin naman pong environment naapektuhan ng input natin, ang nangyayari po, domino effect. So, nawawala yung bees, nawawala ang pollinator, nawawala ang environment. So, ano tayo ngayon, anong gagawin natin para magkaroon ng balance ito? So, we have to protect our bees. So, the first thing we have to do is to give yung priority sa bee health. So, we have to intervene para maprotektahan yung ating mga bees by giving them, first of all, yung good nutrition. Okay, so saan nagaling ang good nutrition? By providing them with good nectar and pollen source. Okay, meaning we have to discontinue the use of yung mga harmful chemicals na will affect yung mga bubuyog natin. So, hindi naman po biglaan yan kasi we're so dependent on them, so it takes time. Hindi po yan magkakaroon tayo ng withdrawal symptom kaya tinanggal natin yung mga pesticides sa kadagan. But siguro po, it's high time na instead of using harmful pesticides na ganon, we can go into something na more biodegradable or more natural in approach. So magiging hulsat tayo dun sa ating approach on control and sa ating pest management system. And this is where yung discuss ni Dr. Servancia na IPM comes in. Okay, so we could use yung botanicals and then yung mga mechanical method to get rid of pest dun sa ating mga crops, especially dun sa mga small stakeholders na may makita sa dalawang spray agad. And then even sa honeybees natin, instead of using harmful chemicals like tumafos is an organophosphate na naglilinger yan na matagal. We could use botanicals also, or like yung marjoram oil, or mite control, or yung mga organic acids like yung formic acid or oxalic acids to control yung mites. I think there was also a product na it came out from Europe na it uses propolis mixed with marjoram and
pester plant ang mga bees, kukunin
Pagkat ano yung bladder plant,
yun sila. Ganahan sila.
ini-spray lang siya sa ini-spray dito sa brood to kill mites. The product is called Green Hive. It's a botanical control for mites. It's been circulating in Europe now, so they discontinued the use of provalinate and flumethrin. Pumapos, I think they're still using it to control small hive beetle in the United States, but Pumapos is no longer used in the European community. So they're going to pull botanical for control of mites in Europe. So what's stopping us from using botanical as well? Okay, so yun po, so sinimulan natin sa pag-build up ng health ng ating colonies. Now, dahil po hindi maganda yung environment, nagkakaroon ng hindi magandang pollen at saka nectar production ng ating mga halaman. Ngayon, nag-interview tayo para pagandahin yung bubuyog, yung health ng bubuyog. Hindi naman natin sila mapipigilan na huwag silang pumunta ron sa mga halaman na infected. Pero dahil po, dahan-dahan tayo magtatanggal, yung pong residual effect ng mga pesticides na mga harmful chemicals dun sa mga puno is bumababa po yan over time. So habang bumababa yan over time, hindi pa rin po maganda yung health ng mga puno natin. But yung ating health ng mga bees at saka iba pa pollinators, na-improve natin through our yung provision ng mga magandang food na tinatanim natin, yung mga annuals na nailalagay natin sa mga garden natin, at saka doon sa mga ornamentals natin, ng mga cosmos, ng mga marigold na tinatanim natin sa mga pots na hindi natin ina-applyan ng mga harmful chemicals. This will rejuvenate the health of the colony. And in turn, kahit na hindi maganda ang pollen at saka nectar production ng ating mga puno, these colonies, the rejuvenated colonies, the rejuvenated bees will go and visit these flowers ng mga affected na mga plant species na vicinity natin, and they will effect pollination. Now, since kakaunti yung pollen na pinuproduce at hindi nutritious yung pinuproduce na pollen ng mga puno at saka mga halaman na to, the bees will tend to collect more of the pollen and they will spend more time in the flowers, and then they will visit more flowers, and this will compensate for the lack of pollen na pinuproduce kasi mas matagal ang visit, mas maraming visit, binibisita nilang bulaklak. So kung kulang man yung pollen ng species na yon, yung sa dami yung bisita at sa dami na nakikerry na pollen ng mga buyog natin doon sa kabilang bulaklak, nagkakaroon po ng effective pollination pa rin. And once effective pollination is in effect, magkakaroon po na ng fruit set at magkakaroon tayo ng seed production, ng fruit production, and then seed production which will be dispersed by other animals, including humans, na magpaparami ulit sa environment. So yun po yung kanilang interrelationship. Ngayon po sa food production, ganoon din yan. Since we applied yung mga pesticides at binabawasan na po natin, yung mga halaman natin, halimbawa yung ating mango, yung ating durian. So, ang nangyayari po, including yung mangosteen, pinupuntahan po ng mga bubuyog natin at ini-increase din po yung fruit set at saka fruit production, which again, we will help disperse. So, dahil po gumaganda yung fruit set, seed production ng ating mga dumadami sila. Nagiging beneficial sila sa environment at vice versa. So, nagbalikan na po na. Dahil gumanda yung ating environment, gaganda na rin po. Mas lalong gaganda yung ating status ng ating mga pollinators. So, give and take, give by take, may feedback mechanism yan. At dahil dun po, lumakas yung pollinators natin, pag ginamit natin sila for agriculture, rejuvenated, very strong colonies, very strong bees, yung pong mga pollinators natin will give us an increase in yield production, and that will be suffice to provide us food and provide feed for our animals. And of course, dahil maganda yung food natin, production, at maganda yung mga alagang hayop natin, syempre, mentally, nagiging maayos din tayo. So, yung social natin is gumaganda rin yung outcome natin sa buhay. So, yun po yung nagiging effect niyan. Tapos, Dahil marami na yung mga puno na nakikita natin, magaganda yung mga bulaklak, na-encourage tayo na magtanim at we create landscapes that's pleasing to the eye and pleasing to our health. So yun po yung nagiging ano yan. So, yun po yung importansya ng bee health at saka ng environment. Because bees cannot live with the environment and the environment cannot live without bees. So, babalik po tayo dun sa laging sinasabi na sinabi daw po ni Einstein, which actually it was found in one of his journal na nakasulat doon sa isang page. We don't know if it is his friend, Mr. Rutherford, or it was his wife who wrote that. But yung 4 years without bees, mamamatay na tayo lahat. Yun po, yun po yung ibig sabihin nun. Mankind will not survive without bees. Period. Yun lang yun. Because bees is an integral part of the environment, and the environment will affect also your bees. They cannot live without each other. And since if both of them disappear, we will also disappear. Yun po yung importansya ng bee health sa environment. So we must take care of our bees, remove all adverse impact on the environment and impact on the bees that we so created, especially yung mga pesticides, which is the #1 cause ng decline ng bee health. And then of course, aside from pesticides, there are also household chemicals that affect yung health ng bees natin. Now, also, meron tayong mga ginagawa that affect yung bee health natin. Okay? And doon tayo papasok ngayon sa next slide, please. Sa role of biosecurity. Okay. Dito sa Pilipinas, meron tayong dalawa. Actually, 3 yan. Hindi ko na lang sinama yung isa. Kasi hindi ko gusto makita yung kanilang logo. Okay. Yung ating sa biosecurity natin, ang involved ay for animals, it's the Bureau of Animal Industry at Biodiversity Management Bureau. For the plants naman po, ang involved is yung BPI, Bureau of Plant Industry, at saka yung Biodiversity Management Bureau. Yung pangatlo, na crucial po, pero they're not doing their job eh. Yeah, they're not really doing their job. It's the Bureau of Cotton. Bureau of Cotton. Namumutong lang sila eh. Okay, sorry po kung may nag-bureau dito, but medyo may battery po kayo. So, ngayon, ito po dalawang agency ito ay tasked via Republic Act 9147 or the Wildlife Resources Conservation and Protection Act of the Philippines. Okay, napakahaba. But essentially, yan pong batas na yan ang nagsasabi sa dalawang agency ito na mag-usap kayo, mag-draft kayo ng policy, at you put into effect these policies to protect wildlife and ensure a sustainable use of all Philippine wildlife. Police functions kanila rin yan. And of course, develop yung mga systems at saka projects that will uplift yung biodiversity conservation and protection ng Philippines. But right now, both Bureau of the Department of Agriculture, both Bureau of the Department of Agriculture and the DNR are having trouble. Okay? Okay, so and we know what to do. We should help out. Okay po. So, ang sabi po sa akin nung ilapit namin ni President Albert Marcia sa BAI, yung flight ng ating honeybees, at saka yung problem natin sa beekeeping industry is that we should make a proper representation with them, with their director. So, parang ang gusto nila is yung mga presidents ng Banners Chapter, saka basta yung BNet officers will go along with NRTDI, si Sir Joseph, doon sa office nila. Talk with the director, discuss yung mga problems at saka yung mga possible future ng beekeeping, and then they will endeavor to seek appointment with the higher office so that they can come up with a tangible solution to our problems. So, in effect, parang sinasabi nila, lumapit kayo sa amin, we will try to seek audience with the Secretary of Agriculture, then eventually with NEDA, so that they can put into perspective na, oy, itong beekeeping na neglect natin, baka gusto nyo bigyan to ng part of the pie, na hindi lang tayo concentrate sa manok, sa baboy, sa baka, at saka sa isda. Ito, importante ito, baka gusto nyo tulungan sila, yun ang gusto nila sabihin. So, pag-usapan ko namin ni President, ng mga President ng Binet na we will come up with yung parang resolution na we will bring forth dun sa BAI. Tapos, we also did the same with BNB. So, I don't know if you have someone in touch with the Department of Environment and Natural Resources. Maybe we can also make representation with them directly to the Secretary na kasi the Bureau is supposed to be helping us is something like that. So, this is where all of you comes in. So, you tell us, we will make the resolution, and then we bring this resolution to the Bureau of Animal Industry and the BMB to effect the needs of the industry, which is really important for us. Okay? Now, ano po bang ginagawa ng biosecurity? Next slide, please. So, ito po. Unang-una po, sila ang nagmamanage ng health ng animals. So, makikita nyo, they are all ang personalized interdiction yung sa mga importation and exportation ng mga wildlife or mga natural colonies natin na so rampantly tinitrade natin. If you go to Facebook, PTPA selling ng colonies from Luzon to Mindanao, Luzon to Visayas, Visayas to Luzon, Mindanao to Luzon, or Visayas to Mindanao. Napakarampant po ng trading, especially for stingless bees. Ang worry po namin dito is there might be over-harvesting of some species in some areas. So, pagka po nag-over-harvest, ang nangyayari po sa wild, yung species na yun is nagiging extinct. Ngayon po, pag nagiging extinct yung isang species at meron pong group of species na depende sa kanya for pollination, that particular species may disappear as well. So, halimbawa po, sa stingless bees na itong Tetragonium labiroy. So, halimbawa na lang, ang kanyang paborito ay ano ba paborito niya sa Luzon? Yung ipil na yung sa heat forest na natakbuhan, it's a mangrove, part of the mangrove ecosystem. Heat forest po siya ng species. Yung ipil. Ma'am, ano nga po yung scientific name ng ipil? Yes, ma'am?
Insia bijuga.
Yun po. So, paborito po yun ng Tetragonium labiroy. Ngayon po, mukhang lumalabas po na yung species na yun is, ang primary pollinator niya is Tetragonium labiroy. Kasi siya po yung pinakamaraming pollen na nakikita namin sa gut at saka sa pollen source ng Tetragonium labiroy. Ngayon po, na-eliminate si Tetragonium labiroy sa environment through overharvesting. So, nawala sa buong Quezon. So, ano pong mangyayari doon sa trees na yun? Dahil nawala na yung pollinator, wala na siyang fruit, wala na siyang fruit set, wala na siyang seed. So, hindi na siya makakapag-reproduce, mawawala yung puno na yon. Ngayon, dahil nabawasan yung species sa mangrove mo, may mga species naman na depende sa shade niya to develop. Ngayon, dahil nawala yung shade ng ipil na yon, yung mga dependent sa shade na pinuprotect niya, hindi na rin po mag-grow well. Tapos, dahil hindi nag-grow siya ng well, yung function niya na nag-support doon sa mangrove ecosystem that will protect yung coastal areas against yung mga tsunamis at saka mga storm surge, as well as yung mga breeding ground, especially for milkfish, yung bangus. Breeding ground ng bangus ang ang mangrove ecosystem, plus nandun din yung mga mud crabs natin. Dahil nawala na yung mga species ng mangroves, ano mangyayari po doon? Mawawala yung breeding ground. Magdidecline ang fish, magdidecline ang crab. At dahil nawala yung mangrove na barrier mo, pagdating na tsunami storm surge, wash out yun. Parang dolomite yun. Ganun yun. So, mawawash out yung area na yun, so magkakaroon ng erosion. Pag nagkaroon ng erosion, magkakaroon ng siltation ng coral reef mo at magkakaroon ng bleaching. So, wala ang coral mo, wala ang isda mo. So, domino effect na yan. Wala ka ng pagkain sa lupa, wala ka ng pagkain sa dagat, paktay doon na lahat ng tao. Okay, ganun po mangyayari doon. So, yun po ang importante ng biosecurity at saka yung management ng importation and exportation at movement ng animals. Ngayon po, pathogen. Okay. Ang pathogen po is especially important kasi po, we are importing exotic species from abroad. Case in point po, yung queens ng Apis mellifera natin, which we cannot do away with importation unless we come up with something that will be a solution for long-term or perennial problem natin sa queen. But anyway, ang function po ng quarantine service at saka with the BNB is to screen yung mga pumapasok na honeybees po dito. So, papasok sila, magkakaroon po ng quarantine dun sa origin, papasok dito sa atin, magkakaroon ng post-entry quarantine. Ang post-entry quarantine po ay ginagawa to make sure na talagang walang dalang sakit yung mga queens na dumarating sa atin. Kasi po, merong mga scrupulous din po, mga bad bananas din po sa ibang bansa na pag nalagyan ng pera, sige, bipirma na ako, lusot na yan, hindi naman checkin yan doon. But, yung pong post-quarantine was put into effect na to double check. Parang ano yan talaga security door na lang talaga yan na hindi makapasok yung ating mga kinatatakutang peste na maaaring mag-wipe out sa ating mga native species. Okay. So, case in point, 1998. Okay, 1998, yung nagkaroon tayo ng scare with American foul brood. Okay, ang nangyari po kasi noong 1998, may nagpasok ng mga used queens. Okay, so nagpasok sila ng used queens in hope na makakatulong sila sa bee industry. Wala naman po masama doon, but kung pinasok nila yung used queens, dapat dinaan man lang nila sa quarantine para to check. Kasi yung pinanggalingan na country is known for AFB. So, pinasok nila 1998, and then wala namang masama sa ginawa nila na gusto nila makatulong, they bred yung queens, pinagbenta nila sa mga maraming beekeepers, including yung mga newbies, in-insert sa mga colonies na binenta doon sa mga new beekeepers, dinisperse throughout the Philippines. It turned out, yung queens na yun ay infected ng AFB. So, ang pinaka-hard hit po ay yung mga bagong beekeepers. Kasi some of them purchased 10, 15, meron pa po ng isang nag-purchase ng 40 colonies na nukes. Nung bisitahin po, nung time na yun, 1998, BPI pa po ang may hawak sa atin. Hindi pa po Bureau of Animal Industry kasi ang bees po nung time na yun was considered as potential pest. So, BPI po nakahawak ng quarantine. Ngayon po, na-discover na may FB na magkaroon ng quarantine inspection sa mga yards. Kasama po ako noon. Marami po akong nakaaway. Inabangan pa ako ng itak. Yes po, hindi kami papasukin ng taga-BPI dun sa yard nila. Pati po si Director Joseph, may napag-initan din yan. Kasi part po siya ng kasama team noon na naglilibot, kasama si Dr. Pulting. Nagkasunugan po ng colonies. We burned a lot of colonies. Dito sa Cebu, meron din kaming sunog, hindi ko lang alam. John, ano ba yung status doon? Nagbibikipik pa ba siya? Ayun, nagbibikipik pa naman daw, pero masama din ang loob doon. Kulang na lang siguro ipakulong si June. Yun. So, yun po nangyari. So, ang impact po is grabe. Ang daming colonies, economically, masakit po sa bulsa ng ating mga beekeepers. Kasi isipin nyo, bago beekeeper ka, you bought 40 colonies in hopes na talagang gusto mong go into business ng beekeeping. But in the end, wala pang 6 months sinunod yung colonies mo, along with the equipment. Di po ba sakit nun? Sa inyo mangyari yun?
Kapital.
Hindi kayo magagalit kay Jude? Hindi kayo magagalit sa akin? Magagalit kayo sa akin, magagalit kayo kay Jude. Persona ng grata kami dalawa. So, yun po yung ano doon. So, economically, it's devastating to those who are just starting. Now, to those established naman na beekeepers na, it's also devastating. Kasi, another example is, well, anyway, he's allowed me to mention his name, Mr. Tamayo, one of the original beekeepers in the Philippines. I burned 40 of his colonies in Bataan. The problem with those colonies is that they have double super. And since the honey is infected with AFB, I told him, you can still sell the honey, but I'm going to burn your bees. Sabi niya gano'n. Sabi ko sa kanya, sabi niya, no Alex, burn them all. So I burned the honey, and the bees, and of course, all the equipment. So, nagpahukay siya ng trench, we pulled all the bees down and then poured diesel, and we burned everything. So, 40 colonies, 2 supers, approximately na lang 20 kilos per super. Ganon kalaki yung losses niya. Plus yung kanyang colonies na pwede niya pag-split into 3. So, presyohan niyo na rin yun. Imagine gano'ng kalaki ang nawala sa kanya. Plus yung equipment. So, sino magaling sa math? Sir Alexis. Oh, rough figure ni Sir Alexis, 2 million in 1998. Factory nyo na lang yung inflation ngayon. Anong sir? Kung ngayong price?
1998 po.
Oh, kulang-kulang 3 million daw or more ang nalugi kay Mr. Tamayo. But yun nga, yun yung effect ng environment sa bees at saka yung bees environment. Sayang nga kasi si Mr. Tamayo is also an environmentalist and he does not want the AFB to spread among the native bee species. So instead na sacrifice niya yung native bee species, he opted na sunugin yung kanyang infected colonies, bees, equipment, and honey. To the loss na kung ngayong figures is around 3 to 3.8 million. So yun po yung role ng biosecurity. Now, bakit po kasama yung people? Kasi po, sa biosecurity also for yung enforcement and education sa mga tao. Okay, tayo mga beekeeper, nakikita natin yung mga nagpo-post sa Facebook na selling ng ganito, selling ng ganyan, queens na ganito, queens na ganyan, colonies na ganito, colonies na ganyan. Okay? So, ang policing is nasa kanila rin po at saka nasa atin. So, pag may nakikita tayo na suspicious na tao na nagpo-post at saka na nagmamarket ng colonies without approval of DMB and saka na itong BAI, maaari po sa atin call into attention yung seller na yon na does it have permit from the DMB or does it have permit from the BAI. Kasi po, ang nangyayari, dahil nga Facebook, shortcut yan minsan di na dinadaan sa mga quarantine at saka sa DNR for permits. Siniship na lang nila ng siniship. Yan po yan. Ngayon po, on part of the DNR and the B and the BAI naman po, I brought this into their attention last meeting namin, na yung pong mga regional offices nila, especially regional offices, you don't know what to do pag may lumapit na halimbawa beekeeper, I want to ship from Luzon to Mindanao, ng stingless bee colonies, pupunta ron, I want to ship, they don't know what to do. So, after this conference, we will address that dun sa national office. So, I'm going to train them on the analytical procedures and detection procedure for special diseases, as well as we are going to craft yung protocol at saka statutory procedure for quarantine for the Philippines. So, yun po yung gagawin namin. And then, magkakaroon po ng meeting ng TWG for the Philippine Bee Roadmap na spearheaded po ng BAI. And then, we will be there with Mr. Albert Marcia and Mr. Joseph Anas to represent the stakeholders. So, magiging ano na po yung ating approach kasi po, imperative po tayo para alam nila ang kanilang ginagawa. So, we will be there to represent the stakeholders, which is us. So, people po, yan po yung ano natin, because enforcement and educating both the government agencies as well as yung mga kasama natin. Pagka nag-post sila ng ito, tatanungin natin, i-caution natin lang sila, wag po natin silang kagagalitan. We tell them in a good way na, oh, baka naman na-overharvest na kayo, baka nakalimutan mong kumuha ng permit, kailangan na permit niya kasi bias sa Wildlife Act, kailangan may permit yan from BAI at saka from DNR. Huwag naman po na, oy, nagtitinda ka na naman, baka naman palusot na naman, ganyan. Huwag niyo po nang gagawin. We will alienate those people, lalo lang gagawa ng masama yan. Okay, so ganun po ha, pagka nakakita kayo nagpo-post sa Facebook, paki-caution na lang po sila or tell them in a mild way na baka mali yung ginagawa nila at mas makakatulong sa atin na i-inform nila yung mga government agencies na kailangan i-inform bago sila mag-export ng mga colonies. So yun po yung isang pinakamaganda natin gawin. Ngayon po, ito po, yung summarize ko kanina. So disease outbreaks is caused by yung mga emerging diseases and including zoonotic diseases. Yung disease outbreak po noong 1998 is AFP because yung masok, yung po makikita doon, mga importation ng animals, import and export of animals, yun ang dahilan. So, import and export of animals brings about pandemic. So, nangyari din po yan sa ASF. Import and export of animal and animal products. That's why we have ASF ngayon. Okay? Bird flu. O, so pa yan. Problema din nila yan ng bahay. Kaya nga, ang gusto nilang i-strengthen is yung interdiction, which papasok po dito yung Bureau of Cotton. Okay? So, pasensya na po, may hindi talaga ulo ko doon sa isang yun eh. Yun po gusto i-strengthen talaga yung interdiction. Wala pong interdiction na nangyayari. So, yun nga po, animal import and export, wala nagkakaroon ng interdiction. So, nangyayari po, pasok lang ng pasok, and we get everything from ASF, avian flu, European foul brood. Boy, kumusta ng hive beetle? Okay daw, sabi ng Sir Boy. Oh, okay daw ang hive beetle dito. Healthy. So, sack brood, wala pa? wala pa naman sack brood. Okay. So, yun po yung mga binabantayan natin mga diseases ng bees natin. Unfortunately po, yung kapo, nakarating na yung hive beetle, yung AFB, yung EFB, meron na rin po sa Pilipinas. Yun po, dahil sa mga import po ng twins na at mga colonies na hindi dumadaan sa quarantine. Ang binabantayan po natin ngayon is yung sack brood. Kasi po, may nakita kami sa Facebook na hinahanting ko kung nasaan, balak niya mag-import ng Asian honeybees from Thailand. He wants to bring in Asian honeybees from Thailand, bring it to, malapit lang sa inyo, Bukidnon, kasi gusto niya mag-start ng Asian honeybees. Ang problema po with Asian honeybees from mainland Asia is that it has Thai sack brood, a virus disease. So isipin nyo, tayo nagkaroon ng COVID. Yung ating bees, bibigyan ba natin ng Thai sack brood? Wala tayong sack brood dito sa Pilipinas. Yung Thai sack brood will infect both Apis cerana and Apis mellifera. May possibility din sila kasi nakita nila sa Thailand na yung Thai sack brood is also finding its way to Apis dorsata. So, baka ang ating Apis perdivigola ma-infect din. So, yun po yung natin. importante sa biosecurity na dapat mapigilan natin yung mga ganitong mga pagpasok-pasok. Now, yung antimicrobial reduction po, yung antibiotic resistance, marami po tayo dito, pasintabi na po, yung mga nagkakaroon po ng prophylactic feeding, na sinasama yung antibiotic doon sa feeding nila, kasi nga po, dahil natakot sila sa AFB at saka sa AFB. So, ang nangyari po, feeding with antibiotics para suppress yung signs and symptoms ng disease. Sinusuppress na po yun, but the disease is there. Kasi, especially po yung AFB, na spore former siya. Nakatago yung disease to sa spore, hindi siya active. But the moment na mawala yung antibiotic, boom! At pag yung nag-boom na yun, talagang boom na, explosive talaga yung kanyang biglang-bigla bagsak ang colon mo, biglang-bigla ang kalat nun. So, yun po yung nagiging effect. Tapos, gagamit ka naman ng antibiotic, mapapansin mo, magre-reklamo ka, fake yung antibiotic ko, hindi nag-work. Increase mo yung dosage. Lalo mo, pinipid yung resistance ng antimicrobial resistance ng yung bacteria. Eventually, you run out of antibiotics to kill that bacteria. Now, the problem is, dahil antibiotic resistant na yung bacteria mo, yung antibiotic resistance might also spread sa mga human pathogens. Kaya po ngayon, ang ginawa ng DFA, you cannot buy antibiotics without prescription. Kasi po, tayo nun, bili dito sa tindahan, bili sa ganyan, lagay na niya, ilan na ganyan, hindi naman continue yung proper regimen, tapos i-discard lang natin. So yung mga bacteria, nagkakaroon po ng resistance at eventually nawawalan tayo ng bacteria to combat yung ating mga sakit. So ganoon din po sa bees at saka sa ibang animals. At ang ramification po niyan is beyond yung animal health but also yung human health. So antimicrobial resistance. Kaya po importante po maprotektahan natin sila. And then protect po yung ating honeybees kasi po yung honey na laced ng antibiotics, hindi na po natin magagamit yan to treat yung mga common illnesses natin. Kasi it will also trigger antimicrobial resistance. So yun po yung po niyan. Mga ramifications sa mga nangyayari sa ating intervention na ganyan. Now, knowledge, sabi ko nga po sa inyo, it is up to us to educate yung agencies, mga pertinent agencies, at yung mga kasama natin beekeeper on the value of biosecurity so that we can help out in promoting our industry at saka helping out in mitigating loss ng environment. So, as a closing slide, biosecurity is in our hands. So, hindi lang po yung agency na inaasahan natin, although they have the mandate, but it is up to us also to make sure that they do their part. And we do also our part. Kasi po, biosecurity is not just one agency. Okay? Kasi po, ito naman po nangyari dyan. I know that some of you medyo magalit po sa BAI. Okay? Kasi po, kumuha sila ng sample, in the hope na i-release inyo yung mga results ng samples na yon. Kasi po, they're trying to detect yung mga presence ng mga diseases. But please understand na ang ating government is cash-strapped, and then most of the agencies are understaffed or staffed with, hindi ko naman sasabihin competent but undertrained staff. Kasi nga po, yung mga magagaling na personnel, yung mga fully equipped personnel choose to live abroad and offer their expertise on other agencies because they pay well. Let's face it, greener pastures. So ganun din po na yung nangyari, yung first batch na train namin ng mga personnel ng quarantine service natin is let's say na-remove sila sa kanilang mga jobs kasi nagkaroon ng institute tayo ng yung non-contractual sa government offices. And since most of them are job order or contractual personnel, dahil wala silang trabaho, what else can they do? Sila ay nasa biosecurity. Ngayon, wala naman silang ibang papasukan na biosecurity dito. Nag-open ng Australia, nag-open ng Canada, nag-open ng Singapore. Maganda sweldo. I myself know about yung biosecurity sa kanila. Ang ganda na offer nila, per hour, $27 per hour. Dito, magkano yun? Wala lang. Convert nyo lang, 27 pesos per hour, 27 times 8. Oh. Diba? Malaki yun. So, kikita ka ng, $1,000 per week. Convert mo sa piso yun. Oh. Di, titiis pa ba ako dito? Mag-sisal ako ng damit sa SM o lilipat ako? Expert naman ako sa biosecurity. So, rather na magtinda ako sa SM, doon na lang ako sa abroad. So ngayon po, magkakaroon kami ng relevant training with biosecurity, and I requested po itong agencies na to send yung mga plantilla or permanent staff nila to attend the training and be trained so that they can also train understudies nila, take care of, train sila ng mas younger personnel na meron ding plantilla or yung mga permanent staff nila na magte-take over in case na magkaroon sila ng retirement. Okay, magkaroon ng mga mag-retire na mga personnel na nauna, ngayon na-train sila sa baba. And then sabi ko, magre-re-echo kayo, so yung lahat ng regional offices nila will be capacitated na hindi lahat sa national ang analysis, sa national ang release. Kasi po, yung regional offices will be empowered para po hindi sila nasaturate. Kasi po, napansin ko dahil doon sa walang capacity yung mga regional offices nila, all the samples and all the analysis will take place sa national laboratory. Problema po is, ilan ang aral po stop. Dalawa lang yata sila doon sa bacteriology, dalawa sa virology, tapos masasort na sa 100 or 400 samples. Good luck. So, yun po. And then, open naman po sa floated idea of using state universities to become their analytical arm, and yung UPLB po nag-offer na pwede sila na maging arm ng BAI para i-decongest po yung analytical lab dun sa National Laboratory ng BAI para po mapabilis ang paglabas ng result sa inyo. Para hindi naman po kayo nag-iintay ng ilang taon na ito hindi pa lumalabas. Ganun po. Tapos sa importation po, para mapabilis din po yung paglabas ng quiz at hindi namamatay dun sa holding area. Ganun po yung gagawin natin. So, ipapast track po natin yon, and tumingi po ng kaunmanhin ang Bureau of Animal Industry dahil po dun sa mga lab na gano'n, kasi nga po, yung transition ng mga tao nila na trained para sa detection at saka releasing ng kanilang mga results is nandun sila sa phase na yun na naghahanap pa sila ng tao na papalit at saka ititrain pa po namin, and then ayusin pa po namin yung protocol tsaka yung statutory procedures para po sa local movement at saka export ng ating mga bees. So yun lang po at maraming salamat. Sana po tulungan nyo kami, magtulungan tayo to ensure yung honeybee health and protect our environment, and of course, institute yung ating biosecurity. Maraming salamat po.
That was Dr. Anderson Marvin Jr. for the bee health and the environment. Again, all questions will be we will have a question and answer later. So write down your questions, reserve them, so you can bring them up later to our respective speakers. Now, calling on to our second speaker, who's going to talk about the conservation of pollinators. He's an educator on quality food production and a trainer on good agricultural practices, or GAP. Calling on Mr. Virgilio L. Loquias to take the stage, please. Thank you.
Magandang umaga sa lahat. Kumusta ang lahat ng mga pollinators ngayon? I know that you are all pollinators. Hindi tayo nadami kung walang pollinators. Yes, okay. Thank you for inviting me for this forum. And I will be giving you some information about conservation of pollinators and pollinizers with our researcher from the Bureau of Plant Industry, Casilla Saselo. Medyo hindi lang maganda yung yung BPI na susulog ng mga pollinators natin. Palitan natin yung BPI. Gawin natin bee pollen industry. Hindi na bureaucrat industry. It's a bee pollen industry. Okay? So pollination is one of the most important mechanisms in the maintenance and promotion of biodiversity and in general the life on Earth. Ito yung sinasabi ni Dr. Pahato. Pollination ensures food security and improving our economy. And year 2009, the economic value of let's say pollination is about $710 million. Medyo lumalaki na ito, maliit kaya ito. Then pollination is the transfer of pollens from male anther of the flower to the female stigma. And honeybees contributes 80% insect fruit self-pollination. Then pollinators are important agent in crop production and habitat integrity. According to Arcelo, out of 1,300 types of plants, these are pollinated. 75% of our crops are needs pollinators. Like for example, this includes butterflies, flies, midges, ants, bees, wasps, beetles, birds, and mammals. So pollinizers are flowering plants that serves as pollen donors and dormitory or habitat of pollinators. Isa sa mga kinukonsultir namin pollinators itong mga lalaking papaya. Ang ginagawa nila, pinuputol yung papaya na lalaki, pinapatay. Yung rambutan na lalaki, pinapatay. Hindi nyo ba alam na ano yan? Pollinizers na siya. So conserve those pollinizers. Kasi kahit lalaki yan sila, hindi namumunga, pero yung pollen nila na ginagamit pa rin. Kinakain sa ating mga pollinators. Okay, next slide. Okay. So pollination by bees increased 50% versus pollination achieved by bee. So this is a research done by UPLP. It improves high yields, quality, and nutrition. In durian, you cannot produce good, well-shaped durian without good pollination. So, based on our trial, the best pollinator for durian are the bats or the fruit bats. Mayroon din mga pollinator na bees, pero hindi masyadong maganda kasi off-shape yung laman kasi they are not well pollinated. Pero yung ating mga honeybees, yung trigona, ay presence pa rin doon sa bulaklak ng durian. Sa mango, in mango, there are a lot of flowers. Kung walang pollinator, ito yung nalalaglag. They are not pollinated. In coffee, based on our observation, these are self-pollinated, especially the Arabica. But in the presence of pollinators, 50% increase in the production for the Arabica coffee. So, same thing with cacao. We have identified midges as for the best pollinator for durian. But there are also some bees present, cacao bees, midges. Okay. Next. So ito yung ating mga identified pollinators on our vegetables like tomato, eggplant, watermelon, squash, marshmallow, carrots, ampalaya, lettuce, okra, onion, peppers. The most dominant pollinators are the honeybees. We have honeybees, the wild bees, the bumblebees, ants, the thrips, stingless bees, and so many more pollinators. For fruits, next slide. We have avocado for honeybee. These are honeybees. Banana, these are parthenocarpic, but there are also presence of pollinators like wasps. Citrus and pomelo, honeybees. Durian, we have fruit bats, honeybees, trigona, and ants. Guava, honeybees. Cassioy, trigona. Passion fruit, we have honeybees. Dragon fruit, trigona, and the Apis mellifera. The rambutan are more on honeybees. Then lanzones and mangosteens are apomictic, but there are still pollinators visiting on these flowers. Then red apple, bees, lychee for honeybees. Then strawberries, they are pollinated by bumblebees. The chickwood, pollinated by thrips, and the papaya, we have also trigona and the honeybees. Next slide. Then these are our study in the BPI that we have identified bees and trigona as the natural pollinator during the day. But usually the activity of the female and male parts of durian is active during the night. So the best pollinator for durian are the nocturnal mammals or animals, and these are the bats. Yung ating mga nakikitang pollinator sa araw, the day, hindi siya masyadong effective. Kasi active yung babae sa durian during the night. Parang tao rin, no? Aktibo yung tao sa gabi. So, makikita natin sa picture na or slide, meron talagang presence of bats. With these bats, we have a good quality of durian. Next slide. Then, in avocado, we have also documented avis species. In banana, we have wasps. And in cacao, we have identified midges. And we are so happy if you could see in the ecosystem, if you could see some butterflies. I think these are monarch butterflies. Meron ba tayong monarchs sa ano? So we have documented this in the nursery. Now, the best place or habitat for our pollinators, kailangan talaga mayroong malinis na tubig. Without water, they would not exist. Tubig, importante. The soil, the environment, the landscape, is one important thing to consider in the conservation of our pollinators. Next. Ito, makikita natin sa likod ng bahay. We have pots, the paso, the bamboo tubes, yung ating spout, no, galing sa bubong. Mayroong bahay dyan na ginagawang bahay ng ating trigona. Yung ating tinatawag natin sa Bisaya na kiyo. Yes. At hindi mo na matanggal yung spout niyan dahil parang dumidikit na. Then, kung sa paso, dumadami yung ating yung ating mga pollinators doon sila nagdami sa mga paso. Ang predator naman dyan is yung mga palaka. Malakas kumain ang palaka ng yung atong apis na mga pollinators. Next. Then we have also a farmer who is raising his bees in Kalinan. Esther doon sa mga nandito ba? So, wala pa. Pero ito kailangan natin. We have to support these growers, bee growers, to sustain our food production. Next. Then threats to pollinator population. I have here changes in their food and breeding environments. Ito na-discuss ito sa Pardo. Pesticide contamination like insecticides, damage natural ecosystems, climate change, human activity. Tingnan mo yung sino bang farmer dito sa coconut farmer? Di ba nagpo-produce kayo ng coconut daddy? Alam niyo ba na yung pollinators kung papasok sa loob na mamatay?
Yes.
Yeah. Yun, isa yun sa mga yung activity na nasisira yung ating pollinators. Dapat sila yan, we have to babalutin natin yung subok ng harvest ng baba para hindi papasok yung pollinator. Screen. We will teach the farmers to bag. At saka malinis yung kasi yung atong pollinator nalalasing yan dahil sa sira, very dirty yung nila. Ginagamit na harvester. Then we have also plants identified like for example Sabadinia. These are botanical plants na it emits dust na it kills our pollinators. Then meron tayong mga cypress plants. Yung cypress, di ba matinik man yan? Yung pollinator, nalilitson yan. Yes, nasisira sila. While on flight, they landed on thorny plants. Namatay sila. Then may mga pollinators because of this yung human activity rin, yung ating mga street lights na mercury, na-traps yung namamatay yung insekto. Yung nasa daan, di ba? Because of mercury lights, namamatay yung tingnan mo yung isang bubuyog dyan. Nakukulek ko yan below sa poste na mayroong mercury. Hindi nyo nakikita yan. Isa yun sa mga nakakasira din sa ating pollinator. Then pollinator requires good nutrition. Ito, dinidiscuss ito ni Sir kanina. Needs variety of pollen and nectar. Flying in proper places looking for food resulted to fewer bees can visit the flowering fruit trees. So, ibig sabihin nito kung ang pollinators ay lumilipad sa ibang lugar looking for food, yung plantation dito hindi na pollinate kasi nag-migrate yung mga pollinators naghahanap ng pagkain. No, ganun yan. Then, we need isa sa mga nakasisira ng ating pollinators yung sinasabi kong botanical plants. Then pyrethro plants, then predators. So nakita namin yung palaka, isa sa mga predator ng ating pollinators. Next slide. Then measure to increase pollination population, you have to provide fresh water and plant variety of flowering plants. Install dormitory of beehives, bee nesting breeding sites. Then adopt good agricultural practices, organic farming, conserve male plants like papaya, rambutan, and batuan. Then we need government support to honeybee growers, apiculturists. Then pollinator habitat restoration and introduction of good agro-environmental practices specific to pollinator production. And what I am saying is you have to enhance the BPI, making it bee pollen industry. Then next slide. Then these are the products of the bee pollination or the production of good fruits, quality fruits. Every day we eat 3 times a day. Kung walang pollinators, hindi tayo kumakain. We have our fruits here in Davao. Try to visit fruit stands, and you can see mangoes, rambutan, pomelo, durian, mangosteen, and ansones. Next slide. Then honeybees visit 5 million flowers to make 1 pint of honey. So be sure that we have to conserve our pollinators and pollinizers. Without bats, we have to hire batman to pollinate our durian. It's our farmers. We will, kung sa Bisaya pa, kung wala'y kwaknit, ang farmer na ang magpinaknit. Good morning and thank you everyone.
Thank you for a wonderful talk. They're very eloquent. Alright, and for our next speaker, he is a consultant on tropical beekeeping, a member technical working group on Forest Harvest Collective, and regarding the Apis dorsata honey, may we call on the stage Sir Everett John Roberts.
Good morning, everybody.
Morning!
I'm really pleased to see so many people. I think this is the 5th time I'm participating in a BNet conference, and every time the people attending is increasing. So that is very good, and I hope everybody I'm looking at is actually a beekeeper. I'm going to ask some questions just to have a slight idea who I am talking to. People from Luzon, Visayas, Mindanao. Okay. And all of you are beekeepers? Yes. Apis mellifera? Yes. Stingless bees?
Yes!
Apis dorsata? That leaves me without, Apis mellifera, sorry, yeah. That leaves my topic very special, I think, because I'm going to talk about Apis dorsata. I used to be a beekeeper back in Holland and back in Spain. I started with beekeeping here in the Philippines back in 1987, when we established the first training center of Apis mellifera, European honeybee, in Talisay, Cebu. That was a long time ago. And now it's really very encouraging to see, because you have a very special task as a beekeeper. Because thanks to you, we can eat 3 times a day. And that will be very, so I hope you are all aware about the importance of what you are doing. My name is Everett Roberts. I did a feasibility study. I came for the first time in the Philippines in 1981. as an advisor on organic farming, and in '87 I was asked to do a feasibility study. And the outcome of that study shows that Apis mellifera indeed is possible to keep in the Philippines, but not by poor farmers. By that time, Apis mellifera colony, one colony was worth maybe 4,000 or 5,000 peso. I don't know what is the price now, but I hear prices like 15,000 peso. Is that correct? That is correct. Okay. So it is even more far away from poor farmers. Then I can conclude also that people in this room are not poor farmers. We are middle class, we are people who can afford Apis mellifera, then you are in a privileged situation. After my feasibility study, I did a study in tropical beekeeping in Cardiff. Same university as attended by Professor Sebastian. So we know each other a long time. I'm a consultant in tropical beekeeping and pollination, specialized back in Europe in the commercial production of bumblebees. And I'm very pleased to know that recently I found out that we have 6 species of bumblebees here in the Philippines. That's very interesting. The only problem is we don't know where they are and if they're still alive. For 1 or 2 species, it is already confirmed recently that they are still alive. So that's very encouraging. I'm involved in the Asian native bee honey analysis. I focus more or less now on Apis dorsata. So I'm no longer interested or motivated to do anything with Apis mellifera. Last time I held 2 colonies of Apis mellifera was back in 2010, I think, on my farm in Sinacabal, in Misamis Occidental. Both of them were destroyed by Tropilelaps, which is entered the colony through Apis dorsata. So that is why I got interested in Apis dorsata. I am a member of the International Honey Commission, and I'm working very much now together with Mother Dunia, which is an extension program of NTFP. Later I will tell you more about that. And I'm the owner of Sinacabal Eco Farm. I'm an organic farmer, retired, but not tired, very active. And I'm a permanent citizen here in the Philippines since 2014. Present study on sustainable soil management at Wageningen University shows that biodiversity in the ground, but also above the ground, has a lot of similarities. It's very important that we, of course, continue maintaining biodiversity above the soil, but also inside the soil. It's very important that we maintain biodiversity. And last but not least, and very important, I'm very happily married with Anna Rusuan, who is also here with me. And support you out. Next please. I have to tell you that at the end of this presentation I will show you a short movie that I took about how to harvest honey from the Apis dorsata colony on my farm in a sustainable way. So keep this is a publication, or these figures are coming from a publication earlier this year. And there we see that the honey coming from, or being sold here in the Philippines, most of it comes from Apis dorsata. And that is why, and if you realize that 80% of the honey being sold here in the Philippines is tampered with. And that is a very serious problem. because that's a danger for you beekeepers. How do we know that the honey being sold in supermarkets is real honey, is coming from a reliable source and is harvested according to certain protocols? Well, that's what we like to look at now. Okay, next please. So traditionally, honey from the giant Asian bee is being harvested and sold in a way using techniques that requires a different approach, especially when it comes to hygiene, but also to ensure the future of the colony itself. And these pictures show, and I think, is this recognizable? Do we still see this in different places here in the Philippines? I think so. Next please. So this presentation will look into the protocol designed to achieve the improvement of harvesting Dosata honey in the wild. If followed properly, a quality mark can be applied for, and therefore we follow the Asian guidelines on sustainable harvest and management protocols. And at the two websites below, you can see and look more about the specifics of these guidelines. Next please. So among the thumb rules for honey in traditional forest communities are the following. Define colony or area ownership. Don't destroy the habitat of the bees. Avoid harvesting from nests nearby farms, where especially chemical sprays are being applied. Use appropriate sustainable harvesting tools and methods. Harvest only mature colonies for honey. Harvest only the honey part, and we will show that, I will show it into a movie later on at the end of this presentation. Leaving the brood intact, very important. And the brood collection is only for community consumption and not for sale, and that part of the brood should only be a short portion, a small portion of the brood. I have seen many times when talking to honey hunters, their knowledge about the biology of Apis dorsata is very limited actually. They know how to harvest it, they know what kind of techniques they are using, but if you ask about and you pinpoint on pollen stored in the hive, in the comb, they think it is the poop of the bee being stored there. So that tells you something about the level of technology or the level of knowledge they have. They have learned about how to harvest the honey generation after generation. But the exact biology and the importance of keeping the colony intact is not always present. Next please. So the harvest honey only on dry days, so to reduce water content. Normally Apis dorsata honey has about 24-25% humidity, so that needs to be reduced. Very important. Do not harm the bees while collecting honey from the hive. Cut the honeycombs and drain the harvested honey. Never squeeze the comb, so it has to be dipped out, you have to take your time. Honey should be pre-filtered on location if it cannot reach the processing center in a few hours. Honey should be clean and meet the standards for food and health. Well, if you look at the two pictures before, where they're selling the honey in a balde, that's why we sometimes call it honey bal. That kind of hygiene we don't see. It's a complete lack of hygiene. Respect local customs and rituals related to honey harvesting. advocate for supportive policies and programs for sustainable forest honey management and trade. Next, please. So we have the following social ecological indicators: ecological, trade and markets, policies, regulation, and monitoring methods. Next. Ecological, the forest has an abundance of nesting trees and nectar sources. There's a stable or increasing number of colonies in a particular area. Sacred sites are secured and respected. There's regular flowering of pollen and nectar sources. Occurrence of pollination. Climate patterns such as rainfall and humidity are stable. Harvest. Only mature colonies are harvested. Only the honey part is removed from the comb, of course, and harvesting is done on dry days. Appropriate harvesting methods, tools, and equipment are used. Next, please. The honey should be clean and meets health and food standards. There are certain rules for that to be respected. There's no brood for sale. Honey can be traced to its source. Honey properties indicate it has been harvested properly. Local or traditional organizations are engaged in collective trade, so supporting the market. There's an effective community institution that manages honey resources. Community discussions are done during honey collecting season. And social networks or partnerships exist between harvesters and other actors in value chain. Good. Policies and regulations. Oh, sorry, I don't think it is that. Okay. For monitoring methods, resource mapping, including identification of nesting trees, number of colonies observed versus number of colonies harvested, community permanent plots, recording, number of colonies, number of trees with colonies, flowering trees before, during, and after each season, pre and post-harvest monitoring through inspection of peer groups, of non-collecting hunter group within 3 days of each harvest, community level associations assess the quality of the honey. Thank you. Records of where the honey is from, what are the nectar sources, who collected, and other relevant information. Observance of adherence to harvest protocols, community discussions during honey collecting season. That was done already, I think. Internal control systems and participatory certification process, checking traceability, and that's the most important part for the marketing. Reports on progress on enabling policies for forest honey. Maintain observation records about animals and birds that are dependent on the bees, honey, and combs. Next please. So here we're talking about sustainable harvest protocols for honey harvest. It's called the Forest Harvest Collective Mark. Next. When we talk about regional, it's all the countries involved where Apis dorsata is present. It goes about 3 major factors: quality, sustainability, and traceability. quality products meet safety and market standards. Products are harvested, produced in sustainable and ethical manner, and it should be traceable. Products are harvested from sustainable, community-managed forest and legal sources. Extremely important. So it is a protection towards the consumers. The consumers have to be confident that the honey they buy is coming from a reliable source and is not tampered with. Now during COVID, we noticed there's an increase of honey. And that triggered a lot of people making fake honey. It also triggered maybe the demand for Apis dorsata honey, and therefore honey hunters are inclined to harvest more colonies than actually they should. So there's a real demand for honey, but there's also a real need for sustainable way of harvesting and keeping the colonies alive. So if we have an increase of honey, we have to have the courage to say sorry. We cannot sell at this moment because otherwise we have to harvest too many colonies. It's different, totally different way of thinking as when we work as a beekeeper, managing cultivated crops, Apis mellifera. That one we can increase any kind of amount we want to, as long as there is forage available. Well, there's this problem right now that we keep on cutting trees. We keep on having more monoculture. Therefore, it is endangering possibly the bio habitat of Apis dorsata. And that is what we at all costs should avoid. Next, please. Okay, so there is people who are interested in marketing Apis dorsata honey there, and that indicates, of course, that you have to work with honey hunters, because those are the people getting the honey out of the forest. Is to observe if protocols are followed and to assess whether honey meets standards of forest honey collective mark. Now, these standards are described in a list of protocols that I'm not going to handle right now. But if you're interested, you visit the website and then you can learn more about it. But it involves on-site observation, harvest, consolidation center, organoleptic test, processing, bottling, lab test. If all these standards are met, issuance of certification and permit to use the collective mark. So that's basically the way of getting the mark done. And the contributing factors are community participation, existing and expanding networks of multi-stakeholders, ongoing efforts in improve and innovate systems, and discussions on other problems, etc. Next. Then we have the constraints, and that is what I discussed before, the fear of Mark competing with its own individual brand, if it already exists. Different levels of capacity requiring different levels of support. documentation and monitoring can be considered additional burden on the procedures and a lack of resources to reach more communities. Next. So the opportunities are there. More recognition of PGS by government, private sector entities in some countries, improvements of existing and emerging standards, which can include looking at points of highest risk and monitoring these standards can be viewed as immediate and aspirational for compliance within a few years, sanctions for non-compliance. More pilots, expansion sites, updates to operations manual for forest harvest quality mark. Okay? This is a movie I would like to show. Can you activate it? I think you have to go down. Can you go all the way down? The blue is more. Voilà. Maybe I can review it again and we can show it later. Okay. Good. This is an announcement that you see of the upcoming Mother Dunia conference in Vietnam in November, where we only talk mostly about Apis dorsata honey. So if you have a chance, it's a beautiful opportunity to learn more about Apis dorsata honey and how it's being handled in the different countries where Apis dorsata is present. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Roberts, for his presentation of introducing a protocol for sustainable harvesting of Apis dorsata honey and A. brevigia honey. Now, for the next speaker, we have the professor from the UP Los Baños and the BNet National Secretary. Please help me welcome Ms. Anolinda Manila Fajardo.
Good morning, thank you very much. Sabi ko lagi sa lecture ko sa klase ko, I'm the smallest, ay di pa pala, second smallest Miss Manila. So, Manila po ako, yun po talagang middle name ko. I'm using it because si Alex at ako ay parehong nasa research field. So, then also to give some justification para sa magulang ko. So, ginagamit ko po yung Manila para sa magulang ko. Okay, so essentially po, I've been doing research on pollination, but my field is really on ecology. So, and BS pa lang ako, ecologist na ako, hanggang ngayon po, ecologist na. But I study more on how the environment affects the pollination process. So essentially po, what I'll be presenting to you today is to summarize. I requested na magpalit kami ni Ebert because I'll be summarizing what has been presented yesterday and today. So makakama across ko yun. So the topics yesterday, today will be put together here. So as I have presented kanina or kahapon, throughout biological history, we have been seeing a lot of changes. And pollination or bees, importante sila sa tinatawag nating, kaya dumami yung halaman sa terrestrial environment, gawa ng mga pollinators. And bees provide a big chunk of contribution to that. So essentially, especially on food production, as well as in giving us a lot of services. However, in the last century, climatic conditions have drastically changed a lot, significantly changed, and it affected not only all organisms, but included the different vegetation, the bees, as well as environmental degradation. Pasensya na po, baka maya-maya may masabi din akong some political issues. Yan. Medyo napapadama yun every time I do some lectures, especially with the changing land use. Yan. So we'll look into the intricacies of the relationship between the bees, the environment, performance ng functions sila, especially what happens to their population growth, diversity, and distribution. So essentially, next slide please. I'll first start with a quick view of the bees of the world. Ano po ba yung tinatawag nating ecosystem services and climate change? Sa totoo lang po, I'm not really that fond of discussing climate change because it's quite big. It's enormous. It's complex. But I'll try to make it some sort of shorter here and medyo mas specific to give you a clear background and specifically how it relates to bees. Okay. So ano yung mga services na binibigay ng bees, and then the bees and climate change, and of course ending up with the sustainability issues. So tatagmiin nun yung pakibalik lang po. Yung services at saka yung climate change. Okay, let's start with the bees. Okay. So there are two main types of bees. You have the social bees and the solitary bees. The social bees are, there are, as mentioned by Alex a while ago, there are 20,000 identified bees, extant, ibig sabihin buhay. And then 15% are said to be eusocial. So 20,000 times 0.15, sir, 300 species ay tinatawag natin eusocial. But there's increasing knowledge now with stingless bees. And from their number, it's continuously increasing. Dumadami, and ang dami na niya sa ngayon. So baka madagdagan pa if we go forward kasi ang Philippines hindi pa totally alam talaga ilang species meron. There are research that have been done but hindi na-publicize kasi yung isang paper na nagsabi na 13 species siya. So sa ngayon, 6 or 7 lang yung accepted sa Pilipinas. So hintayin pa natin yun. So in those bees, where we have the following. Yung picture po sa baba is Apis cerana. So you have the honeybees, and as mentioned, we have around, sa listahan kasi 10 species to 11 species of honeybees in the world, starting from Laboriosa being the largest, then followed by Dorsata, Breviligula, Mellifera, Cerana, Koschevnikovi, Nigrosinta, Breviligula I missed, Indica, meron na pong Apis cerana, Apis indica. Before it was Apis cerana, Apis cerana indica. At the same time that Apis dorsata breviligula was separated from Apis dorsata, nireport din po nila na merong Apis indica, and it's an Indian species. So, nadagdagan po noong 2011 ng 2 species ang honeybees at the same time. This is genetics. So genetics na po ang ginamit nila doon. And then we have of course Florea and Andreniformis. So essentially from the largest to the smallest species. So we have also stingless bees. We have bumblebees. There are 2 species of bumblebees in the Philippines. And then of course we have a lot of carpenter bees. Next slide please. Okay, so just to start with some definitions. So ang ating unang titingnan is the Apis, let's start with ecosystem services. So it is defined as the varied and many benefits to humans provided by the natural environment and healthy ecosystems. The term is man-made. It's really focused towards how we utilize the natural resources for human beings. So essentially, this include yung iba't ibang ecosystems natin, from agro-ecosystems, forest ecosystems, aquatic ecosystems, along with the tangible benefits that we get. Ano yung mga tangible benefits na yun? Food, fresh water, we have the mitigation of floods, erosion, improvements in water quality, kasama yon, mga services. And the less tangible benefits would include, of course, the useful cultural or spiritual services. And then yung climate change, as I mentioned, medyo complex siya. It's really on the long-term shifts in temperatures and weather patterns. Now, maraming sinasabi na, uy, kasi may climate change na ngayon, etc. But climate change is a cycle. It has been happening for eons, periods in the past. Nakita na nila yan sa Egypt, for example. Meron silang mga reservoir na nakita nila yung mga lines ng tubig sa reservoir, and they've seen periods of drought. So nakikita nyo yung line, yung water line, mga ano tawag dun sa ano, mga water line doon, na ay, ito, dito siya dating tubig hanggang dito, tapos niya bigla bababa, biglang flooded, gano'n. So it's really a cycle. It's just in the last century, the rate of change is very, very fast. Okay? In the 1900s, we just had a carbon dioxide emission of 0.03%. Yun po ang amount ng carbon dioxide natin sa hangin. Now, na-record na nila, it's already 0.033. Maliit yung 0.003 na addition. Okay? Note po, ang ating carbon dioxide sa hangin talaga ay 0.03. Okay? Pero ngayon, 0.033. Okay? Imagine nyo yung change ng temperature with just the change of 0.003. A lot of bleaching of corals with 1 degree centigrade change, nasisira ang mga corals natin. Yung ating temperature, dalawa na po ang tina-classify natin. Yung naririnig nyo po na init factor sa weather is essentially the heat index, which is different from the ambient air temperature. So ang ambient air temperature natin ranges from sa Baguio can reach up to 6 or 9. Tama po ba? O may mas mababa pa? And then up to around 37, 38, and I think in Cagayan umaabot na 40 something. Okay. Ano po ba sa Cagayan ang nabot? Kasi Tugigaraw is always recording the highest temperature, 40 plus. Ang katawan po natin, pag umabot ng 45, you're dead. Kasi yung inyong enzymes sa katawan, sira na. Pag 43, tirik na yung mata niyo po yun kasi nasisira na yung body enzymes niyo. So, yun po. Kaya tayo usually, nangangatal na tayo kapag 40 na yung lagnat. So, essentially, ganun pong nangyayari. So, climate change is natural, but it started in the 1800s when we have been using coal as our source of fuel. Yung mga steam engines natin. Human activities have been the main driver of the climate change, and it's mainly for the use of coal, oil, and gas, which produces our, narinig naman po natin, yung ating CFCs, or greenhouse gases. Okay, so from that definition, let's go forward for the next. Ito po yung tinatawag nating ecosystem services. So this figure came out last month by MDPI because of one publication, and it shows a very good interactions of the bees with the ecosystem services. Okay, there are four levels of ecosystem services. Pero yung isa po kasi nasasubsume yung tatlo. Kaya dito, tatlo lang yung nakikita nyo. It's divided only in 3. The first one is provisioning, the other one is regulating, and the last one is cultural. Okay? Let's look at the regulating. When I say regulating, it is some sort of a control system. It helps in controlling the natural flow of the ecosystem, and its main purpose for the bees is in the pollination aspect, That's the main component. And then followed by, of course, with pollination, you have biodiversity conservation. The provisioning service means you get something from it. It provisions. Nagbibigay siya. So when provisioning, the main provisioning service, of course, would be the source of our bee products. Ano po yung mga bee products natin? We have beeswax, honey, propolis, bee pollen, bee venom, royal jelly, and bee brood. So the seven basic products. And of course, another provisioning service is on sustaining or mitigating conservation or management of the environment. So essentially, we have the sustainable solutions to mitigate the human-wildlife conflict. And then finally, the third one is cultural services. And you see at the leftmost side, you have ecotourism. Okay? And then with ecotourism, you provide education, the knowledge, okay? And of course, the science of it in trying to do research. Yun po yung mga cultural services na binibigay sa atin. So, pwedeng pag-aralan, pwedeng ituro. Yun po. And then finally, of course, medyo hindi nag-arrow pababa based on the paper by Go, Aniel and Jung in 2020, the spiritual values. Ayan, mas gusto ko ito, pwede ako pumunta doon sa gitna. Sorry, teacher. Yan. So you have the spiritual values, which, unlike kasi katulad ng Mount Banahaw, ang Mount Banahaw sa amin, ang spiritual value doon, yung mga Rizalista, usually have their religious rites in the mountain. So sa atin, yung ating, in this case, it's more on, I don't know, with the bees. I think, yeah, it's written in a lot of our scriptures, may it be the whatever religion we have, naka-specify doon yung honey and the importance. I know there's a portion in different books. So you have those as the spiritual values. Okay, but I would like to focus more on the most important thing, which is pollination. And kasi ito yung pinaka malapit sa puso ko kasi yan po yung ginagawa ko for the last 2 decades. And you have, next slide please. Pollination is one of the most important ecosystem service. Since our world's flowering plants need pollinators, that's around 80% as per report of USDA, and about 35% of agricultural crops would be needing pollination by Khalifa also and FAO. So makita niyo po dito, yung flowering plants natin outside, na ganun kadami, and a portion of that, a big chunk of that, would be pollinated by insects, which is around insects as well as, of course, ano sa insects na yun, representation niya would be 35%. But no, yung naririnig natin na, I think binanggit din ni Alex kanina, yung without bees, after 4 years, we die as human. I always refute that. Whenever I see that in Facebook, sumasagot ako na it's not true. Okay? We will not die, of course, but we will have a very big problem. Kasi malaking chunk ang pollinated ng bees. Okay? Again, this is the bees. I'm talking about all bees. Okay? And malaking portion doon ay honeybees ang nagbibigay. So essentially, hindi naman tayo mamatay kasi we still have the butterflies as the other insects, beetles, flies, wasps. Okay? Pag beetles nga, majority, mas marami sila. They're the most represented. Pinakamarami pong beetles sa mga insekto. As in, more than half. More than half ng insects ay beetles. Yan. Kasi sila una-una. Ano lang kumain ng beetles? Sabog-sabog Diba? Pag kumain, makalat siya. Okay? You have a plate and their food is always outside the plate, just like that. And then you have bats, butterflies, bats, birds, and of course sometimes we see some monkeys, snakes, rats, yan po yung mga pwede pa rin mag-pollinate. Yun nga lang po, without the honeybees specifically, there will be a big chunk of loss. Okay. Next slide please. What is the value of the bees? All of them. They improve fruit quality, quantity, market, okay? As comparison to, of course, compared to the wind and self-pollination. Kung medyo malaki po, they make excellent pollinators due to their excellent or efficient wide availability. Ang pollen grains kasi is part of their diet. It's their protein source. And the pollination term, essentially, nanggaling sa pollen na kinokollect ng bees. Yeah. So, malaking worth niya kasi tinataas yung quality. For example, kiwi. Kiwi fruit. Sorry, dapat nga pala may fruit. Yung kiwi fruit, hindi siya na-export without pollination, depollination. That's why when you go to the stores, you will see them of similar sizes. Magkakasing laki sila, gawa ng pollination. Okay? Yun po ang isa sa ginagawa niya. Magiging magkakasing laki, not only that's quality, but it also adds on quantity. So dumadami na, nagkakapare-pareho ng size. Okay. Yan naman yung sometimes ang nagiging disadvantage kung habol mo yung production ng specific varieties of mango. So yung binanggit ni Alex kahapon dun sa Southern Negros Agro Joint Ventures. Sa isang tangkay, more than 50 yung nagiging fruits, and they need only 3. Sabi sa amin, kailangan yung isang ganon, dapat 3 lang. Kasi yung mangga nila, kasi laki ng mukha, ganon kalaki. Malaking-malaki. So, if you place them na madaming fruits sa isang tangkay, liliit yung fruits, but they will be of equal sizes. Yun lang ang disadvantage doon. Kung ang habol mo ay mas malaking fruits. Okay. Note that flowers and fruits are what we call in botany seed zones. Ang source zone ay ating mga ugat, pinanggagalingan ng nutrients, or yung leaves, pag nag-photosynthesize sila, papasok sa halaman. Lahat ng nakukolekta ng part na yon, pupunta sa bulaklak, pupunta sa fruits. So, ang nangyayari po, nandun na stock. Okay. Kaya pag wala po tama kahapon, pag walang tamang fertilization, hindi rin magkakaroon ng flower, hindi rin magkakaroon ng fruits. So, magkakadugsong po sila. Okay, next slide please. Okay, but in the late 90s and early 2000s, there were a scare in the western region which we call the colony collapse disorder. Fortunately, tropical regions or yung site natin, eastern part, was not really affected of such case. Nasa western po ang kanila nakita. And the declining of the pollinators were supposedly because of the following factors. The dwindling habitat, lumiliit na yung habitat nila. The prevalence of pests and diseases as well as parasites. The prevalence in the use of pesticides. Ang sinasabi nga yung mga neonicotinoids, naka-apekto sa bees na naliligaw sila. Yung ibang nakakauwi, naliligaw. Malapit na dumating, naliligaw. Pero automatic kasi within a day or two, biglang the whole pollination, the whole colony disappears. So that's what is happening in the colony collapse disorder. And then of course, the main cause of climate change, and ito po yung isa, land use change, which is related to the dwindling habitat. Yung pong mga forest environment na ginagawang subdivision ni Black number or yung pong mga pangalan niya sa online. Okay po. Committee on Agriculture pa. See the name? Wag na po. Basta, senator na sa Committee ng Agriculture.
Alam na po namin yun.
Tapos, kaya palang minura yung palay para ibenta yung farm para gawing subdivision. Yan po. Well, ang nakakaya po a lot of our farmlands are now being changed, especially if you go along the central Luzon, which is considered as the granary of the Philippines. And ang food po natin, dyan tayo may advantage, rice. We have Erie. Okay? Ang nakakaiyak lang po, binigyan siya. Sabi namin, pwede pa bawin. Ayun. Okay po, so you have here the flight. And I will discuss further itong flight ng pollinators. Okay, so just a view here. This is a honeybee. This I cannot find the source mainly when I got the image. But these are the factors affecting the honeybee. So you have mainly the climate change. I'll discuss more expounded yan mamaya. Then you have the changes in humidity. Hindi makalipad po ang bee kapag ka masyadong humid. Much more po ang Apis mellifera. Okay? As you see here, in the Philippines, Apis mellifera being an exotic species is not really for every part of the Philippines. It's selective. Okay? It will not grow in areas where you have frequent rains. As in frequent rains na in morning the air is humid, yung pakiramdam niyong matupik, malagkit yung pakiramdam niya kasi masyadong maraming tubig dun sa hangin. Okay? I'll just give you an example. They placed, SLSU have a Southern Luzon State University have a beekeeping program. And they placed it in Lucban, Quezon. But Lucban is always rain. Summer po, umuulan doon ng hapon. Lagi yon. So what they did is to transfer it to their other campus, to Chang, Quezon. Doon medyo nabuhay siya kasi nandun din po yung nursery ng region. Okay? But when nandun siya sa Lucban, hindi mabuhay-buhay yung mellifera. But the stingless bees are prevalent in SLSU. Mas gusto naman niya yung basa. Okay? Exotic species kasi siya, ang Apis mellifera, so they don't want a humid environment. Gusto na medyo dry, okay? Yung air. And we know na dapat medyo malamig ng konti kasi galing sa western environment. Doon siya nag-grow. Kaya po gusto niya dito sa Bukidnon, especially doon sa matataas na places, sa Baguio, kasi malamig po yun. Yun yung kanilang environment eh. At hindi rin humid doon sa areas na yun. Yun nga lang, the environmental conditions or climate of the Philippines, we have frequent rains. Doon tayo nadadali, not really for the bees, because they can go inside their colonies, in their hives. It's for the vegetation. Nasisira yung forage niya because of the frequent typhoons. The 20+ typhoons we have every year. Okay. Then we have, of course, the diseases that became prevalent in the recent years, especially yung tinatawag natin shock brood na na-mention ni Alex. Medyo tumataas po yung case ngayon. And then, of course, the destruction of ecosystems, especially removal of the habitat, destruction of the habitat, deforestation. Magkakasama po yan kasi. And then, of course, if these factors go together, hand in hand, sabay-sabay, it weakens the bee. So once it weakens the bee, we'll now have, ayun po sa dulo, dead bee. And main recourse now, our food production also becomes less. Okay, next slide please. Okay, so just to get here, this is the United Nations power picture. Hindi ko pala nakuha yung sa FAO. Hanapin niyo po yung picture ng FAO ngayong taon na to in the celebration of for the World Bee Day. They have a very good image, and it relates also to the conference because it relates to crop production. It's a very good image. So this one is the impact on the bees of different air pollutants. Naliligaw sila kasi nababago yung mga scents ng halaman. Okay. So you have the scent of the plants, scent molecules, scent of the plants, makes it difficult for the animals to really search for their food. And kailangan ngayon maghanap sila ng mas malayo, maghanap ng mas magandang source. Kasi yung mga air pollutants natin, if you frequented or you visit key cities such as Manila, you'll see the plants at the center islands covered with brown or gray specks. Yun po pumapasok mismo sa halaman. So may mga butas po kasi yung halaman, the stomates. Once it's open during daytime, the small dusts are capable of entering those. Pwedeng ma-stuck siya doon or pwedeng pumasok mismo sa loob. And then the plant will not really be able to function well. So it destroys the plants. It destroys now a lot of physiology or characteristics of the plants which the bee are not able now to detect. Kasi nagbabago yung amoy niya, nagbabago yung itsura. Okay. I'll give another example, not really related to the bees, but on the wind. There's a cement factory in Rizal. I forgot the key barangay. And my mentor had two advices. So, yung isa, dito niya sa kabila, pinakuha ng data, yung sa kabila, doon sa isang side. So, the area where the soot of the cement factory goes out, nare-receive ng isang palayan dito. So, nakita lang namin under the microscope when we opened or crushed the rice grains, there were black spots inside the rice grains. Sabi ko, oh my God, sinesemento ka na tayo ng buhay. So there are cement dust inside the rice grain that goes with the pollen, the pollen of the rice during early mornings. Then na-start na po yun. And that was in the 90s. And the cement plant is going, the rice land is still there. So I just don't know, yung lahat po na kumakain ng palay, anong rice na bigas na nanggaling doon sa area ng kung gumagalaw pa o tigas na. So yun po yung mga nangyayari sa pagka mayroong air pollutants. Then with pesticides, of course, pesticides that would be lethal to pollination or lethal for the plant. Yung bang nasisira, namamatay na sila. Okay, ito po nicotinoids. And then you have neurotoxic pesticides. Ito daw yung sinasabi nila kung bakit naliligaw yung bees in the western side. The brains of the bees are affected such that they really cannot perform their duties well on all aspects. Okay. So parang hindi na sila makakabalik ng bahay nila. Okay. Hindi na sila pwedeng makabuo ng mismong hive nila. Okay. Bees are quite fascinating, especially honeybees. Binanggit nga po sa atin sa opening kahapon, yung hexagon. Not only that, doon lang sa hexagon, but their key sense on geometry. Pag lumapad sila ng straight dyan, alam nila babalik sila, dapat angle na kasi gumalaw na yung araw. Nami-measure po nila yon with distance and the change in the angle of the sun, yung arc, nababago nila yon. Alam na nila yung location. That's why they cannot, hindi sila naliligaw. But with these chemicals, nagugulo yun. Okay, yun ang main effect sa kanila. Okay, next slide please. So this summarizes yung mga nabanggit. Okay? These are what we are doing, the anthropogenic act. Okay, you have the biodiversity that would include not only bees, but also the different organisms, because we are an ecosystem. It has to be an ecosystem or a systemized approach. The bee is related to something else. The bees are prey for wasps or spiders. The bees are in commensals. Yan, related sila. The bees would also be in symbiotic relationship with different plants. Either 100% na symbiotic or 50% symbiotic lang. So, importante na lahat ay existing. Okay? It is some sort of having a pyramid, or kung naglaro na kayo ng Jenga ba yun? Yung Jenga, yung pagka may hinugot kang gano'n, yung mga blocks. Now, once you take one, it can all topple down. Okay? Okay? Especially yung keystone ang tawag namin. Pag tinanggal mo yun, pwedeng bumagsak. Pwedeng tinanggal mo, buhay siya, pero it can wiggle. Okay? It can destroy the whole food web, the food chain and the food web. So you have the biodiversity, they provide ecosystem functions, which mainly for bees, it's mainly for pollination. Okay? And once we have the pollination aspect, we can do on our part, being human beings, being stewards, is to do some conservation. Okay? Conservation in both the plants and animals and any organisms that we take care of or we utilize as our resource. And if the environment is said to be destroyed, then may tinatawag tayong restoration strategies. Ano yung pagkakataon paraan natin para ayusin yung environment na yon? Kung hindi man maibalik sa dati, mailagay sa kondisyon na mabubuhay lahat ng organisms. So you have here the conservation and restoration strategies is affecting, of course, the anthropogenic actions in terms of landscape changes. Yung forest, wag natin gagawing grassland, o yung grassland, wag natin gagawing human habitation, yung farmland, ang ecosystem, wag mong gagawin into subdivisions, parang gano'n. Yun ang land use change. Huwag tayong magdadala ng species that is probably invasive. Okay? Anong ibig ko sabihin nun? Not all species are said to be invasive kasi there might be small gaps na sila ang mag-feel nun. Like mellifera. When you place mellifera in one area, it can provide pollination in some plants that our native species are not really visiting. Kasi mas malaki siya. So in the way, the mellifera is said to be not invasive. Okay. So yung mga yan, lalo yung mga hybrid natin, yung mas malalaking bulaklak, na hindi naman hindi naging, yung evolution niya, hindi sabay ng mga native species natin. Bees, may it be honeybees or stingless bees. Okay. Mahirap din kasi magdala ka, kasi pwedeng tatlo yung fates na yon. Yung exotic species, dinala mo doon. Okay? Pwede kasi na itong si exotic species, pag dinala mo sa isang lugar, pwede siya yung mamatay. Well and good. Well and good sa akin kasi as ethologist, well and good kasi hindi siya makakagulo sa natural system dun sa lugar na yon. Second, what will happen is that the local species might be affected by the exotic species such that it can become extinct. Pwede siyang mamatay fully. And dahil nag-invade to sa exotic na mas magaling kaysa local species. Right? Or, on the third possible na mangyari, both of them survives in that new environment, the local and the exotic, but their population goes down. Kasi nagsishare na sila ng resources. Okay. So, the scenario 3 would be good. Scenario 2 for me is the best. Scenario 1, thank you. Sorry, being again an ecologist. Pesticides, we try to change the use of our pesticides. That's not really harmful to the environment. Of course, you have the prevalence of the pathogens because weak bees will be more affected by diseases. Then, of course, climate change. And this human actions would negatively impact the services provided by the different organisms, even the honeybees, of course, as well as negative impact to biodiversity. Okay? The biodiversity also affects now, dito tayo sa right side, on the characteristics of the bees themselves in terms of kung malaki ba siya o maliit. Okay? Kung gaano kalayo yung flight range siya. If you have a smaller habitat, the flight range will be cut, of course. The way that they are distributed in the area, if you destroy the habitat, and then yung means nila for crop pollination, the relationship within the system in terms of queen biology, and their means of interacting with the workers, that goes with the worker attitude, worker performance, and of course their nesting capabilities. Okay? Magbigay lang po ako ng relationship na makaka-apekto to. This hall, tama po ba ako, can handle how many? 150? 150 to 200. Okay? This hall, the carrying capacity, yun po ang term namin, is 200. Ibig sabihin, bawat isa sa inyo nakaupo sa isang silya. Okay? Now, if I can see here a separation at the center. Okay? I can see here a part. Pag nilagay po natin ng harang yan, okay, ilan nga yung tao ang mag-stay dito sa dalawang spaces na to? No. Not 100, not 100. Why? There is what we call buffer zones. Magbabuffer yan. Magkakaroon ka ng 1 or 2 meters dito. Dito sa kabila, magkakaroon din yan ng 1 or 2 meters. That reduces now the population that this room can occupy and this room occupies. So the original 200 becomes probably 180 or 150 because of the buffer zones. So when you fragment a habitat, that is what is happening. Kasi loss of habitat yun. Fragmentation lang yun. Now that is good if the habitat fragmentation is square or rectangular. But what if the fragmentation is indefinite? There could be buffer zones that, depending on the sizes, kasi tinatawag natin edge effect ulit in the environment. So when we do destruction of the habitat, we're actually losing a lot of the population. So para na makita nyo yung how it relates, even in the bees, if you destroy the habitat, if you reduce the foraging range, you're also reducing the area where they can live, reducing the forage plants that they can eat. Okay? And their movement or function, their physiology are also affected. So marami po, dire-diretso yun. Okay, so next slide please. Okay, so how about the main climate change impact? Dito yung sinabi ko kanina, yung habitat suitability reduction. Nag-change din po kasi, yung kanina, nag-fragment tayo ng environment. The key environmental conditions would also change. Because you change one thing, it leads to a change of another. So, bali mangyayari po doon, pwedeng hindi suitable yung environment or it can be less suitable. And affects again yung body size, sociality, nest habitat, the size of occurrence, and of course the contribution of the bees, since the population growth, the distribution of the bees are affected, the health of the bees are affected, then their performance for crop pollination will also be affected. And leads to, of course, ecosystem functions. Ngayon, ano yung main key points na nakaka-apekto yung climate change. Ito po sa right side, yung habitat loss, which I have already mentioned, the change in temperature, minute change in temperature affects that. Kita naman po natin pag nag-aalaga rin tayo ng melifera. Kailangan, dati-dati okay lang yung box. Ngayon, maghahanap ka na ng paano kung pwedeng gamitin glass, fiberglass, semento, ano pa. Minsan lalagyan mo pa ng bubong. Minsan ilalagay mo pa sa may bubong na nga siya, may bubong pa uli. You add insulations because of the change in temperature. Okay. Or planting, may design po kasi yan. Naglalagay tayo ng mga halaman na nag-impede ng wind flow. Okay. Not properly placing plants or urban environment, which we can naman, pwede naman natin ilagay yun. Pero we're placing plants that the wind flow is impeded. Maglagay ka ng halaman sa harap ng bahay mo, walang halaman sa likod. Natural flow of air is not good. You have to place one side with trees and the other side nasa likod. Parang movement ng air pag gano'n. Pag nasa harap yan, wala. Kasi, either tulak sa likod, sa harap, sarado naman siya. So it's either you place one side in one of the plants at front and the other one is at the back. It's key architectural design. Okay. And then of course, diseases. Nagiging weak na po yung mga bees. So that's why we have to improve the quality of our colonies. May it be local bees, may it be exotic bees. We have to improve the key genetics. Okay. In terms of our own purpose, kung gusto natin maganda silang mag-lay, makakuha sila ng mas maraming ng honey, for example, okay? Or mas mabilis silang magdumami. So, yung key. Next slide, please. Okay. So, what can we do? I captured this one from Durant 2022, and he suggested several ways in abetting the effect of climate change on bees. The first one is, of course, climate change. He mentioned that climate change is a huge global issue that could not be solved by any one person. But we can do something, of course, in our own little ways. There are many ways to support bees and pollinators. And the first one is to create a year-round forage. Planting pollinator gardens with, of course, regional plants that bloom throughout the year can provide the needed forage for the bees. The next one is to have specifically for ground nesting native bees that need patches of exposed and undisturbed soils. So kailangan malinis yung soil. So provide patches of exposed and undisturbed soil for bee spaces. Gardening is very important for well-drained soils. And then of course, integrated pest management, a land management approach that would minimize the use of pesticides, of course also of inorganic fertilizers. And anyone who wants to help monitor native bees can join, of course, in the community science projects and use apps to submit data. I was thinking of kahapon gusto ko banggitin. There is what we call citizen science. Okay. Hindi lang po kasi ilan lang naman po ang nasa academe. And of course, everybody is capable of doing science. You actually do science every day. Science for everyday life. Alam niyo na po yan. Sa pagpili nyo na mapapangasawa nyo, o sa pagpili nyo na magiging boyfriend nyo, you're actually doing science. Okay. Sasagutan ko ba ito o hindi? Ano bang qualities niya? Ano yung objective ko? Number 1, 2, 3. Okay. Ano ang means na gagawin mong methodology ko? Sagutin mo. O pakasalan mo ang isang tao. 1, 2, 3. Gagawa ka. And then you discuss and analyze yung nakuha mong data. And then finally conclude, okay, pwede siya. Okay. You're actually doing a research every day. You're not just seeing or hindi nyo na siguro ano yung steps niya. Okay. Ginagawa po natin yan. So, in our ways, makikita natin na pwede tayong tinatawag na community science or citizen science. So, ito yung approach namin ngayon. Kasi, lalo na sa government, you really cannot get enough funding for you to do research and go everywhere. So, merong nagre-report sa amin, o sige, i-observe namin, collect ng data, and then of course, we specify this data came from this and a help of citizen science. And yun na po yung aim ngayon worldwide in all the sustainable development goals. Let's help each other for the goodness of everybody. So yun po yung main. And of course, most importantly, yun nga po, with related to that, is community education. Educating people and communities about bees and their importance to our food system can help create a more environmentally or pollinator-friendly world. Okay, next slide please. And of course, I always end up my lecture on sustainability. The reason why I studied ecology is because of the Y2K. Time kasi noon, the 2000, everybody has a scare. So, kami dun sa BS Bio, marami sa amin nag-ecology major. Kasi takot na baka daw magunaw ang mundo kapag naging 2000 na. At ang computer daw, dahil walang 2000 doon, babalik sa 000, 1900. Ganon, nung time na yun. So, isa sa mga topics ng panahon is sustainable development. Sustainable development is not related to just one. It's a totality on the social or society, the economy, and of course the environment. So it's a relationship of the three. Medyo totoo naman po na medyo, ideal rather. It's quite ideal, but hopefully we can achieve the most ideal that we can. So these are the three pillars of sustainability, which can be treated as an interplay of different factors. That we fully utilize the services offered by the bees. The bees are used for pollination and conservation. Is of course an equitable venture, and that is the economic side. It allows people from any part of the society to use bees as a source of livelihood. Okay? A viable economy can be formed if the colonies are placed in their proper environment, so that the bees can pollinate properly and they have higher plant produce, and of course, high honey returns, as well as the other bee products. With this, we can create a livable environment for the society, as bees enhance the reproductive ability of plants. As I always end my talk, higher plant diversity leads to higher animal diversity. This leads, of course, to higher or better air quality. More food, better lives. With that, thank you very much.
Thank you for the wonderful talk, Ma'am Analinda Fajardo. Now, I want to call on all of the speakers from Sir Alejandro Fajardo Jr., Virgilio Laquias, Ma'am Analinda Fajardo, and Everett John Roberts to please take the stage for the next part of this event, which is the question and answer. So I hope you have written your questions, guys, because this is the perfect opportunity for them to ask and share their knowledge and their expertise.
Also, it's about what you mentioned, ma'am, about citizen science. How exactly do you do citizen science? Like, how can you contribute as a citizen to field?
Yeah, okay. Ang isang approach kasi dyan, since social media is quite prevalent. Okay, I started this last 2-3 years ago when I wanted to summarize or look at all the plants that are visited by the bees. So I requested and posted na if you can share videos or pictures that show the bees on the flowers, and then I'll do the identification of the plant, and then of course, acknowledge the person na nagkuha ng picture. Then we come up with a collection. Yun ang maganda sana yung binanit kahapon, a collection of all the, depende sa kung anong gusto mo. In my case, it was the plants. I-collect ko kasi there have been a lot of questions. Ano ba pinupuntahan? Ano ba pwedeng bee forage? So, wala pa kami exact data ng percentile, but at least by observations of different beekeepers or different persons, nakikita yung bees doon lagi-lagi. Pwede natin i-capture yung pictures and make some sort of a guidebook or some sort of a poster na nandun lahat yung pangalan ng mga tao. That's one way of doing citizen science, that the beekeeper mismo ay scientist. Another is, I've been doing this with a beekeeper from Bigos. Okay? Kasi na-report nga niya doon din meron pa ng species na bees. Sabi ko sa kanya, okay, I cannot go there. Please help me out. Pa-measure. So, binigyan ko na instructions. And then, kami na. Sabi ko, I'll add you to, kung kaming dalawa ang mag-ano, you'll also be the co-author with this. I'll do the main scientific side, but you're helping me collect the data. This is what we call, different levels kasi siya. Depende sa nagiging arrangements.
In addition to that, halimbawa, we're doing yung pollination studies. So, this is what I did in Negros. So, I cannot be there all the time sa plantations. But they have people who are roving in the plantations. They have workers and they have supervisors. So, instead of me doing everyday observations in the field, I asked them if they could do this for me, and then they send all the data and observation, including pictures and videos, as well as yung mga relevant informations na iniwan ko sa kanila sa instructions para yung gagawin. And then, pinapadala sa akin through emails, I collate, I analyze, and then write yung publication. And since marami sila, hindi ko naman pwedeng napakaraming listahan ng author. So I talked to the then CEO, and sabi niya, ilagay na lang natin sa acknowledgement, and then ilagay mo yung company in general as yung area of study. So pag nilagay ko yung pangalan ko at saka pangalan ng company, it acknowledges them at saka yung kanyang mga workers dun sa program. And that becomes part of the citizen science. So, ang isa po pong ng citizen science approach is, kaya nga po na sinasabi ko sa inyo na in your own backyard or in your plantation, na suggested ko nga kay sir, why not create kasi sa kanila yung alley, yung nesting alley na ginagawa ng mga tambak, ng mga nabubulok na, but it leads to another problem. And then, sabi ko, bakit hindi nila kayo gumawa ng mga nesting sites for midges na siya i-distribute mo para control yung mosquito, and then see what happens, record everything, record including yung construction ng mga barrel na gagamitin for nesting ng midges. And then once naayos na yun, just send me the data, I will collect it. I'll just give you yung methodology, yung pertinent information on how to go about it, yung design na kung paano nililayout sa field, and then you'll do it for me, and then we will become co-authors. I'll do yung scientific, yung mga data analysis and everything will be done by me, at saka writing but we will be co-authors on that particular paper, ipapublish yun. Then po yung citizen science.
I just add on, it's helping them na hindi naman talaga kaya ng ilang scientists. It also translates, kasi ganito yan if the scientist makes the research, publishes it stays in the library. Okay? I've always said that it should not stay in the library. It has to be translated to something that is usable. Aanipin research na hindi naman magagamit ng tao. So always translate it to something that everybody can use. And one means for people to use it is to involve them. So help na kayo magkakasama. Involve kayo lahat, and then it translates to something that everybody can use. You become a farmer's scientist. So yun yung aim talaga ng government natin din, even on the farmer's scientist na batas na yun, including all farmers on the scientific side. It may not be the heavy science, but it on a scientific method scale. Yun po yung ginagawa.
Ask na po Sir Alex. Uy. Ako na, sir?
Sige po.
Okay. Thank you so much. I would like to commend and congratulate the speakers. They are really, really authorities in their field. Thank you so much. We learned a lot today. I just would like to address my first question to Mr. Edward John Roberts before I would like to say something to the Popo, the Fajardo Popo. Sir Roberts, I have been hearing a lot of you even before the pandemic. I happen to be married to somebody from Misamis Occidental. It was a colleague or classmate of my husband who happened to know you, and we were informed that a Dutch national has been assisting a community in Sinakaban, because I have lived in Oroqueta for 1 year and 8 months. Somebody from Sinakaban has been assisting a community, and they are keeping and harvesting dorsata honey. So I was wondering back then, who can this be? Probably is married to a local. So until today, we were even surprised. Ay, he's from Sinakaban. He was the guy. So Sir Roberts, considering that you have done a lot to Sinakaban ecosystem and to the community, I have also read some of your credentials and your involvement and representation of international groups. I would like to ask, because there is a clamor, specifically in Visayas, I cannot speak in behalf of Luzon and Mindanao, but in Cebu, Negros and Leyte, there has been a substantial number of wild honey harvesters, and they are so proud, declaring to the world that this is organic honey, this is healthy honey, this is sustainable wild honey harvesting. Now, I am with the notion na because we're also conducting training on Apis mellifera and stingless bees in the Visayas, but with this clamor for wild honeybees, is there a possibility for you and your group to be educating, helping us to educate these people in the Visayas to be more cautious and be more on the sustainable side in keeping this Apis dorsata? Because there seems to be a conflict somewhere. Although, in principle, we agree that beekeeping is good for preserving our biodiversity. But the thing is, in as much as we would like to gather these people to focus their energies on beekeeping, this time with mellifera and stingless bees, yet they keep on posting on social media, this is sustainable wild honey. But at the back of our minds, we know how these hunters are harvesting wild bees or are harvesting wild honey. So, is there a way to educate these people? Could we bring you to Visayas, or should we go to Sinakaban? Thank you, sir.
Thank you for your question. First of all, Apis dorsata cannot be domesticated. That is rule number one. So we have to realize that all honey coming from Apis dorsata is coming from random areas. the floral source of that honey is also therefore depending on the season and the locality where the honey is harvested. We've seen Dosata colonies way up high in the mountains, high up in the trees, in really undisturbed areas. But we've also seen Apis dorsata colonies near mango trees in the compounds of elementary schools, or near hospitals, or wherever buildings they occupy. It is extremely important because we see, as I showed in my presentation, the majority of honey being sold in the Philippines comes actually from Apis dorsata. So it is very important that we do awareness and education, hence the title of this Congress, awareness. It would be really advisable to have some sort of structure that reaches the honey hunters. Because most of the time, well, in Sams Occidental, they work on their own. They work on an individual basis. Once they have located a nest, then they need more people. And I hope later we can show, I think we have now the movie available. 2 years ago, we had a nest on our farm. And I decided to ask a couple of honey hunters to show how they do the harvesting, but then according to our protocol. So I'm not destroying the colony, only harvesting part of the nest where the honey is located. And I hope you can show this movie, it's only 7 minutes, but it has an educational value. So part of that we want to show the danger involved when honey hunters go up climbing the trees, but also the effect that it may have on the colony when not harvested completely. Well, this was a young colony, so we only had a cupful of honey, but that was not the purpose of the movie. The movie was, I wanted to show what is involved. What did they do, actually, because a lot of people don't see it. So it is awareness towards the honey hunters. They have to be shown more about the importance, what is involved when they do the harvesting. And to the consumers, what is the story behind when they buy a bottle of dorsata honey? And by introducing this mark, this quality mark, we hope also it will contribute to reduce the percentage of fake honey being present in this country, because that is really very worrisome. It's very worrisome. And it is actually consumer fraud, basically. In other countries you get in prison for this. People get away with it, and that is something that we really have to address a little bit more. So the consumers are protected, because if they buy a so-called green honey, we didn't touch on this topic, they actually buy corn syrup with coloring agents, but they think they buy something which is good for their health. And they pay a lot of money for it. So these people are really criminals. We have to, by working on a better protocol and quality mark on not only Apis dorsata, but also Serrana and the Melliponas, we hope to reduce these criminal activities, because it endangers also your activities. As a beekeeper, you get frustrated if you see that your product is being compared with fake honey. So you have to, and then you are sort of forced to reduce your price so you can also sell your honey, but then it becomes in the same category as fake honey. If honey is cheap, don't buy it. Buy it from local beekeepers. That is a trusted person, and then you assure you have good quality that has good value. The value of Apis dorsata honey on the international market is very difficult because it will directly compete with international honey, which is mostly coming from China. Very cheap, they dump it on the market. So you don't want to enter that kind of entity. You want to have a very specific product, and that is Apis dorsata. That's shown that Apis dorsata, the medicinal value of Apis dorsata equals, if not better, compared to Manuka honey. So that is something we have to pay more attention to it. A lot of research money goes to Apis mellifera. So accessible funds for money for bee research is not allocated to non-mellifera species, and that is a pity.
Thank you so much, Sir Roberts. Ma'am?
May I add to, I fully agree with Sir Roberts' answer to your question. And with, I would like to add, with regards to your question on how they can transfer the technology, linking with NGOs, ma'am, is the best way to promote the education, especially with native communities, new NGOs. And one such NGO is the Non-Timber Forest Products Philippines, NTFP, because they can give you access to funding agencies like JICA and USAID, who are very much into community development. We have projects with NTFP in Palawan and in Mindoro with indigenous communities whom we taught the proper harvesting of dorsata, and I'm proud to say that the NTFP helped us a lot in establishing their production system and monitoring the production system of Apis breviligula and Apis dorsata honey. So, to answer that question, how they deliver maybe at NTFP, they have an office here in Mindanao as well. So, maybe they can help bring Mr. Everett to your place. Yeah, they can take him as a consultant and then take him to your place, and then you can access more people with the TFP because they have community organizers all over the Philippines. And you can tap these communities and then develop pilot projects in those communities that you can showcase to fulfill your dream of good production, sustainable production for breviligula and dorsata honey. So, thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, also like Apo Martins. Yes, sorry. I am Anil. I come from the health sector. Love it. Okay, I come from the health sector, and I am new to the business of bees and beekeeping and all these things. But I am very interested because I used to work with children with disabilities coming from very poor families. So whenever it has to deal, anything that has to deal with the, say, marginalized sector, that is very close to my heart. Ang problema manggod karon sa Apis dorsata honey is that they are, lahi-lahi sila, lone wolves. Sila no, na diri, mamuhagay diri, their honey hunters here, honey hunters there. And what is happening is that in that group, na ay usa, there is one who serves as the cannot be tawag buyer. So buyer na sila.
Consolidator.
Yes. How do you call it?
Consolidator.
Yeah, consolidator. And these consolidators are the ones who sell the honey to us. In Sinagaban,
we really try to reach the consolidators and educate them. Fortunately, we have been able to do that with 2 or 3 of these consolidators. So hopefully, they're also able to educate the individual honey hunters. But that is the problem now. And I know that when you talk about honey, kanang bitaw mga honey, when you buy honey bitaw, you don't say, oh, this is from the beekeepers, or this is from the, it's all honey. So you say, fake man na, di man na tinuod. Especially, yes, honey bal man na siya because it crystallizes. You know, I put it in the refrigerator and then it has crystallized. That is fake, regardless. So the problem that you are maybe confronted with now, being labeled as fake honey sellers, is the same problem that our honey hunters are also facing. They risk their lives to go up the trees. And when they go down, that is why they are resorting to bringing the combs with them to convince people that this is real. You know, this is real. So that is a desperate attempt on their side to tell people that you can trust me. You know? So I think what you are saying, ma'am, what you're asking is an eye-opening for both Evertian and Mr. and Mrs. Fajardo, for all of us. That we don't act beekeepers here, honey hunters here. No, it is one industry. And maybe that is the challenge of being it. You know, like what Evertian said, there is a sector, there is a group among the beekeepers who are poor. They don't have access to seminars like this or gatherings like this. They don't. They just harvest honey and sell them. You know? So maybe that is the challenge of being. How do you integrate the interests of these 2 groups so that you can advance the bee industry, the honey industry in the Philippines? You have very good resources, Mr. and Mrs. Fajardo. You have Evertian Roberts, who, even if he is older, is willing to work with you just to advance the honey industry in the Philippines. Because honey here, the honey industry in the Philippines is not moving, it's very, very slow. And a gathering like this inspires him and also inspires me, who was a newbie here. You know, that is the challenge. How do you integrate interest without isolating the Dursata people? So that's it. It's a challenge, and you have the answer. Thank you.
Nice. Very nice.
Ramona Pastor from Malaysian Organic Farm Medora. I would like to commend everyone. I mean, all of our 4 speakers here. They are all very, very good. This one is directed to the Fajardos.
Power do. Power couple.
I just wanted to elaborate something about the Dorsata, SimBee, and the Briviligula. Kasi meron kong some confusion I hear from other people here that the stripes and so they are all of you are referring now to Dorsata species from the wild. So I know in Mindoro we have this Briviligula, so I want you to make an elaboration for this so that we will understand. Thank you.
Ayan. Sabi niya taxonomy daw siya kasi siya kayo yung tumawag. So ako na. Okay, number 1 po. It is species with an S. It's not a species. Okay? Ano po yan? Binabash po ako lagi na dahil daw grammar. nag-post po ako sa FB. Sabi ko, bakit? Tama naman po. Specie is a European term for coins. Pag-specie. Species po sa biological is both used singular and plural. So always species. Number 1 po yun. Number 2, binagay ko kanina po na it used to be Apis dorsata, breviligula, Apis dorsata. Kasi noong unang panahon, magkasama pa sila, subspecies. But ito pong si Law, Anderson, etc., and Newman, and a lot of researchers published in 2011 that our Apis dorsata breviligula should stand alone. It is a species in itself, and it is endemic to the Philippines. It's now known as the Philippine giant honeybee. Atin lang po yun, walang ibang sa ibang bansa. Ang kulay niya ay either blue black or white black yung kanyang abdomen. Okay? Dorsata, Apis dorsata is blue and yellow and black ang abdomen niya. They have the size is not really distinctly different. Halos same size sila. There's differences in characters which we still need to study. Kailangan pag-aralan. Sa ngayon, ang Apis dorsata is in Palawan, and majority of Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao has the breviligula because of the white-black stripes. Doon po makikita sa abdomen niya, yung kulay niya. Kaya po pwede niyo siyang tawagan ng Apis breviligula and Apis dorsata.
Ngayon, ang tanong nyo, paano namin na-differentiate? Kung halos magkamukha, kulay lang. Okay, ang ginawa po namin dahil nga po nahihirapan morphologically, kasi halos magkamukha sila, nagbago lang po sa, yung kulay, yung batting patterns, at saka yung combination, at saka yung basitarsus, mga paa nila. Now, to clinch yung talagang identity nila, we use mitochondrial DNA. We profile yung DNA ng dalawang bubuyog and compare them, at doon po namin nakita na genetically different yung dorsata at saka yung breviligula. So yung pong Apis breviligula dorsata warranted at dinipenda po yan sa International Commission on Zoonotics na it has to be separated as a species. Ang nakita po namin, yung bonding pattern ng ating Apis dorsata dito sa Pilipinas, yung Apis dorsata is similar sa bonding pattern na nakikita sa genetic profile ng Apis dorsata sa mainland Asia. But yung ating Apis breviligula, yung Apis dorsata breviligula natin is entirely different sa 10 bands, which is very significant. 10 bands, 10 out of 10, iba siya doon sa Apis dorsata, which warranted for it to be separated as a species na ngayon na tinatawag na Philippine giant honeybees or Apis breviligula. So, ang nakakatuwa po dito sa nangyari nito is that in 1928, meron pong isang taxonomist na si Maa. He classified yung siya nagbigay ng pangalan na Apis breviligula sa Philippine giant honeybees. Okay, way back before yung DNA pa. Ang ginamit niya is yung wing venation, basitarsus, yung glypheus, saka yung mga morphological characters to differentiate yung Apis breviligula sa Apis dorsata. Sinabi niya noon, 1900s pa yun, na hindi pa tayo pinapanganak, na the Philippines as a unique species of giant honeybees, and I call this Apis breviligula. Now, 1965, ginaunta rin kanyang description niya, binalik yung ating Philippine giant honeybees as a subspecies ng Apis dorsata. Kaya hence, since 1965, ang ating giant honeybees dito sa Pilipinas sa tinawag na dalawa na Apis dorsata at Apis dorsata breviligula. So, it turned out na ito si Maa, 1930s pa yun, 1926, is correct na talagang separate siya. So, it was a vindication from Mr. Maa na nangyari in 2011 because genetically, they are really different. So, we should be proud na we have unique and Philippine-owned, uniquely Philippines on the giant honeybees. It's Apis breviligula.
Thank you, sir.
Next po.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much for the input that we have learned through your lectures. It really helped us in that way. I may address my question to Ma'am Diane, Ma'am please. Because you have made mention that there are intervention there are human intervention, and you have given example in rice areas in Luzon, but not only in Luzon, but also I think throughout the Philippines. I have been observing that there are human intervention of various activities, not even on agricultural, but even in the environmentally protected areas and even in the ancestral domain. And maybe this is allowed because of the comprehensive land use plan of that corresponding or respective LGUs. But I have observed that there are no imposition of the corporate social responsibilities of this person. And through your help, maybe we can oblige them. Thank you.
We're talking about corporate social responsibilities in different private organizations or private agencies.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. They're been doing that. There are some companies that include such. I know there's a mining company here in Mindanao that does that. Meron silang project na corporate social responsibility. Ang corporate social responsibility kasi may different levels. One is dole out na talagang bigay lang sa inyo, wala na akong pakialam. Merong corporate social responsibility na ayaw nilang makilala na sila yun. Okay? May corporate social responsibility na sharing tayo. I give you something, but you have to give something in return. Okay? So, I think the mining company is more on dole out. They're giving it as an additional income for their staff and the community that are affected by the mining system. Okay. So, medyo maganda po yung gawin, but we have to really educate these people. Okay. I'll just give another example. We used to have, actually, supposedly may project kami with, sasabihin ko na kasi hindi natuloy, sa Buana Lubelier. They contacted us to give some sort of a beekeeping CSR approach. It's more on distribution. Baga, ito yung colony, alagaan mo yan, a certain portion of your produce, ibabalik sa amin. Siyempre sila most likely pang regalo nila kung saan yun. Tapos yung colony yun, pag na-double mo na, yung additional colony na nagawa mo, ibabalik mo sa company, yung isa yun na. Tapos continuous yun, may arrangement yun na number of years. Yung additional colony, ang gagawin doon, ibabagay nila, ibibigay nila. It's a dispersal system type. Kaso medyo nung time na yun kasi mas focus sila dun sa mga PWBs nila kaya hindi na natuloy yung project nila. Pero that was our design when we asked them. Then nilo-lower down na namin yung ibang costs para ma-continue yung project kasi nung time kasi it was focused on mellifera and quite high inputs. It so happened na ang naibigay namin dun sa company is more on the stainless steel side. Probably it could have pushed through kasi hindi masyadong malaki yung input sa CSR ng company. Kasi CSR minus tax po yan for them. Okay. Maganda rin po yung approach on the private side. We help out also in the interventions also in the... I know, meron din mga companies yan. Si Alexis helps out a hotel in having their own environmental consciousness sa beekeeping. Maganda po is to go on education also with the public agencies. Ito po yung may proposal na kami, hindi tinanggap. So the proposal is running. And hopefully I'm trying to go with the, sa Visayas, yung Peak Conservation Foundation. Ano nga po ba yun, ma'am? Yung sa Visayas, kina Freddy. I'm trying to coax them to get the proposal from me and I'll help them out in the pollinator. It's more on the pollinator conservation. So, sa mga forest ecosystems. Sabi ko, baka gusto nyo, kailangan lang ng a little funding to, especially for info dissemination. It's making brochures, posters, and educating children, schools, na huwag matakot sa bees. Okay, so mainly po yung approach namin. And it's hanging, it's here, it's ready, and we're hoping somebody could catch and help us push through. Wala po kasi kaming funding, so push through with that.
Daghan kayo salamat po.
Next one.
Good morning. Somehow I'm from Davao, then sabi ko kung beginner lang ng beekeeping. Started only last year. Now, ang ano ko is, I have to share my experience on behalf of the Oases. And nung nag-umpisa ako ng kasi I'm now almost here, walang theory or just about to start. Nung after ako attend ng seminar, I started immediately to raise Mitra. Ngayon, bumili ako sa idea natin. Ang purpose ko is not only, meron kami mango farm, durian, and sauces. So, sabi ko, para magdagdagan naman yung ano ko, it's better to bees dito sa ano namin, sa lugar namin. Ngayon, so I started to colonies. Ano nangyari, hindi ko alam kasi na yung mga kapitbahay ko, mayroong mga mango farms like me. So, nung I stopped spraying my mango. Kasi para maparami ko yung bees ko. So, hindi ko sprayan this year. So, sabi ko, next year na lang. Nangyari, nag-spray sila. So, yung economy ko, na-observe ko na unti-unting na gano'n, yung population na decrease. So, sabi ko lang, hindi ko tumutan sa maraming ko nung nag-full-bloom siya. Then, kanina tapos listening to you, sabi mo na baka nawala sa orientation yung mga bees. Like bees, sabi ko, gusto baka yun ang gano'n, ang answer na ay binibigay yung bees kasi sabi daw na makakita siya ng radius of 3 to 5 kilometers. So siguro ang bees, siguro siyang sense of magnetic sense, no? Para makaano sa hangin niya. Kaya, sa akin is I'd like to share this experience sa mga bago or mag-upisa pa lang na you should know kung siguro yung mga kapitbahay natin. Ngayon, dagdag naman ako ng apat. Pero yung nangyari, then came the robbing. Pag dumating yung wild bees, hirap na agad. Talagang naubos yung 6 colonies ko. Ngayon, sabi man daw nila na you have to try again, so bumili naman ako ng 3 colonies. So, what I did is, I research, I read the internet, some books, talk to my friends, mga experts dito, and may nagsabi sa akin, I also read from American papers, lagyan daw nila ng yung box, lagyan ng planting cloth. No,